Ooh, this is a great gel pen. Thanks. And even yeah. Now we're talking. Give me a 5. Count that up. You gotta roll Are you selling pens? What? Yeah. Oh, I like that.
The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Alderwoman Tyus. Present. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Present. Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page.
Present.
Alderwoman Gracia.
Present.
Good job.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice.
Present.
Alderman Gunther.
Here.
Alderman Balmer.
Present.
Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Odenberg.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel.
Here.
Alderman Todd.
Here.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Alderwoman Walker.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross.
Here.
President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Boyd. 23 present, you have quorum.
With the quorum being present, we will commence with our prayer. Almighty God, source of all authority, we humbly ask guidance in your deliberations and wisdom in our conclusions. Amen. We're going to suspend with the regular order of business to take up Resolution 154 as our special order of the day. Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the special order of the day.
Well, we typically do these with the honoree present, but the honoree of Resolution 154 is Miss Lisa McNichols, who was the administrative assistant for the Board of Aldermen the last 37 years. And she has rightfully said that she will not be coming down today, and she's enjoying her retirement. But I would like for the clerk to read the resolution honoring Lisa.
Resolution 154 honoring Lisa R. McNichols. Whereas Ms. Lisa McNichols began working for the Board of Aldermen on January the 26th, 1986, and has recently hit a milestone of 37 years of faithful service to this deliberative body. And whereas Lisa has seen many aldermen come and go, but her tenure is longer than the current tenure of any alderman sitting today. And whereas Lisa loves to throw a party and especially loves birthdays, including her own, which always lasts the entire month of December. And whereas Lisa loves to dance and loves to sing, and she graces us with good humor and spirits and make the Board of Aldermen a wonderful place to work. And whereas Lisa has raised her two sons, Conan and Quentin, and her motherly skills have definitely carried over to her work at the board. And whereas Lisa looks out for her co-workers at the Board of Aldermen, always ready with a word of constructive advice, she offers encouragement when needed, a snack when someone is hungry, and her sweater if someone is cold. She also controls the supplies we use. And going to her office is like waking up on Christmas Day. And whereas we all enjoy her melodies when they flow throughout the office, and her dance when she is hungry and finally gets something to eat. Whereas it is rare to ever see her upset or angry, and her good spirits lift all of us around her. Whereas she has preserved and she has helped all of us when we needed a laugh. Whereas, as former clerk Karen Divis has observed, Lisa's colleagues become her family. Ms. Divis recalls her many lunch escapades with Lisa, as well as working with Lisa to keep another former clerk, Fred Steffen, in line. And whereas Lisa kept trying to retire for many years but delayed a couple times because she loves the city, her job, the Board of Alderpersons, the beauty of City Hall, and her office. Even after making her final decision to retire, she continued coming to the office and working after she said she was done and was supposed to be taking vacation time. This can only lead us to the conclusion that she will continue to visit after her retirement, and we hope she does. And whereas over the years, the Board of Aldermen and the staff takes pictures which are hung in the hallway gallery of City Hall. Many observers have noticed Lisa's progression and exceptional fashion style and taste over the decade, which she has diligently served our city. Whereas her colleagues know Lisa to be dependable, honorable, a hard worker, and a woman who lives and practices her faith. Most of all, she makes us happy to come to work each day.
Now therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize good humor and the 37th work anniversary of Ms. Lisa R. McNichols and wish her the best for the rest of her career at the Board of Aldermen. We further direct the clerk of the Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to the honoree at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 13th day of December 2022 by the Honorable Shane Cone, Alderman of the 25th, the Honorable Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen, and the following honorable alderpersons: Bill Stevens, James Lappy, Joseph Okoro, Pamela Boyd, Christine Ingracia, Ann Schweitzer, Annie Rice, Carol Howard, Shameen Clark-Hubbard, Dwindlin Evans, James Page, Brett Narayan, Norma Walker, John Coder, Thomas Oldenburg, Marlene Davis, Laura Keys.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I know Lisa isn't here today, but I can personally vouch that she is still coming to visit us at City Hall because I was down there yesterday and she was still there. In fact, helping our assistant clerk find some keys that were somehow not working, and Lisa shows up and all of a sudden they worked. I have no idea. I witnessed it personally. It was unbelievable. It was like a miracle. But her presence will, definitely be missed down at the Board of Aldermen. I've had the pleasure of serving with her for the last 14 years, and the resolution is very true. She brought an amount of joy and lifted my spirits very often, and was always a pleasure to work with her. And just wanted to take a moment of our morning to recognize her 37 years, and wish her well in her retirement.
Alderwoman from the 1st.
Madam President, members of the board, just for a minute, first before I speak, a point of order. I thought we passed this last week, and I thought we did it in bank. We didn't do it? Oh, we didn't, okay. Oh, okay. So I would move that we pass this in bank then, first of all. Okay. And then okay, I'm sorry.
Motion carries. Go ahead.
I think, and I know this is special, so we're not going to do it with the regular consent calendar. That's just, okay, because this is a special, okay. Now, am I in order to speak to Lisa, please? Thank you very much. There were, since I've been down here in 1991, there were 2 people that are still here, and now only one when I got here in 91. That was our clerk, who was Alderman of the 18th Ward, and Lisa McNichols. At that time, Fred Stephan was our clerk. Karen Divis was assistant clerk, and Lisa was, I think, had the position that maybe Tracy has. Over the years, Lisa's been an invaluable person, best personality, hard worker, roll up her sleeves, would do anything for any alderman. Lisa could have been the clerk if she had wanted to. Many of us encouraged her over the time, but she knew her own mind, and she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to be the assistant clerk, and no matter how we begged her, she would not do it. We knew things would get done right. Lisa would make sure, even to the point of coming down here after she says, I'm good to be retired, to make sure things are happening the way they are supposed to. She was not the person who would not help train the next person in line, even if they got the job over her, because she wasn't envious about that, because she was happy for that person. She, you all don't know this, when Lisa was in high school, she was either the high school prom queen or homecoming queen. I can't remember which, but we always teased her about that. It is very seldom that you have city workers stay someplace 30-odd years, 37 years. But she was perfectly happy to do that. And when she said she was going to retire several years earlier, I would always beg her, please don't leave, Lisa, please, please, please stay here with me. And so she would always end up saying, okay, I'm going to stay another couple of years. And then this last time, when I was begging her, she said, I'm out, I'm done. And I don't blame her. 37 years is more than enough time to be in one place, and she deserves to enjoy her retirement with her children and the rest of her family members. And she is a person who will be greatly missed by this board. It's going to be a hard set of shoes to to fill, but we will work hard at doing that. And I just want to congratulate her on her many, many years at the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis, and that she was always able, in most of the occasions, to keep good humor and to try to help as many people as she can. And you will be greatly missed, Lisa McNichols. And you have my undying gratitude for all that you've done for this board. Thank you.
Do you want to let her know? Let Shameen know. Any further discussion?
Well, of course, I want to discuss Lisa.
Okay. You may proceed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I absolutely want to rise up and discuss and honor and salute Lisa in the role she played, not just, I know it myself, I can't selfishly say she did it just for me, because I know my colleagues always talk about she was the same person for them too. So Lisa, if you watching, sis, our promise is, like I've said before, it's bittersweet. I am happy for you and your journey and your next steps. I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss teasing, why are you here, right? But we all knew absolutely why she was here. This was her calling and her mission, and she played right into it to the end, and I know she'll be back. To someone's point, she will probably be back. So we love you, Lisa. I hope you're watching, laying in the bed watching us right now. And we will definitely see you next time.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 26th, do you want to suspend the rules to introduce your courtesy resolution so we can pass them all together?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I move to suspend the rules to introduce courtesy resolution number 155.
Moved by the Alderwoman from the 26th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we suspend the rules to adopt courtesy resolution number 155. Any discussion? You should, yes. It's being disseminated.
Thank you. I'm sure when some of you all see the name, it'll be familiar to you all as well.
Right, it's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 26th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing resolution number 155. All those in favor signify by saying, roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus? Aye. Alderwoman Middlebrook? Aye. Alderman Bosley? Aye. Alderwoman Evans?
Aye.
Alderman Page? Alderwoman Ingracia.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice.
Aye.
Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Ty.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion to suspend the rules and for the purposes of introducing Resolution 155. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the courtesy resolution calendar.
I move that we approve the courtesy resolutions calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 16th, that we approve the courtesy resolution calendar. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 26th.
And members of the board, I'm sure that, again, once you saw the name of us honoring Ms. Denise Peoples, and you saw, hey, what's the odds of her being celebrating 37 years, as well as our beloved Lisa McNichols celebrating 37 years and going out with this bang. So with that, I would like to move that we pass this resolution in bang.
It's been a motion to pass resolution number 155 in bank. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Right, it's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 16th, that we approve the courtesy resolution calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Oh, sorry. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 23rd.
I guess I can just yell from here, but as always, I'd like to have my good friend Greg Meyer as my honored guest. Do you need me at the mic?
You're okay. Alderman from the 26th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I am excited to introduce all my honored guests here in the room today. If I start naming names, I might get emotional, but I got my big sister back there, my auntie back there, my niece, all our friends and family and loved ones from Court Square Village just down here representing. When people ask, my cousin, I might ask her to sing, I don't know, but when you talk about what community looks like and when we want communities to show up and advocate for themselves so that we can advocate for them, it's exactly what they are showing us today. Thank you, love y'all.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Right. Approval of the minutes.
We have none.
Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the aldermen's mailboxes.
Does anyone want to take any bills off the informal calendar? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Would you please move Board Bill 44, committee substitute, to the regular perfection calendar?
Madam Clerk, will you please put Board Bill number 44 onto the end of the regular perfection calendar?
So noted.
Right. First reading of board bills. Alderman from the 5th.
Move to suspend the rules and introduce Board Bill number 157.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 157. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Aye. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Aye. Alderman Bosley. Aye. Alderwoman Evans. Aye. Alderman Page. Aye. Alderwoman Ingracia. Aye. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Aye. Alderman Gunther. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Aye. Alderman Lappy. Aye. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Aye. Alderwoman Peel. Aye. Alderman Ty. Aye. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Aye. Alderwoman Walker. Aye. Alderman Vaccaro. Aye. Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Graz. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion for the suspension of the rules to introduce Board Bill number 157. Madam Clerk, could you please put it at the end of the first reading of board bills?
So noted.
First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 150, introduced by Alderman Page, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 5th Ward. Board Bill 151, introduced by Alderwoman Walker, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 22nd Ward. Board Bill 152, introduced by Alderwoman Walker, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 21st Ward. Board Bill 153, introduced by Alderwoman Middlebrook, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic in certain blocks in the 2nd Ward. Board Bill 154, introduced by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of citizen residents by restricting motor vehicle access to alleys as provided herein in the Jeff Vanderloo, Gate District West, Tiffany, and Midtown neighborhoods, and those portions of Botanical Heights and Shaw neighborhoods located within the boundaries of the 19th Ward, has been established in ordinance number 68981. Board Bill 155, introduced by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated November 15, 2022 for 5262 Maple Avenue area. Board Bill 156, introduced by Alderwoman Davis, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps and other street traffic calming installation to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 19th Ward. Board Bill 157, introduced by Alderman James Page, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 28, 2022 for 1900 through 1926 Carr Street area in the city of St. Louis. That's the end of the first reading of board bills.
Madam Clerk, please send Board Bill 157 to Neighborhood Development.
So noted.
Reference to committee.
To the Streets Committee, Board Bill 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, and 156. To Neighborhood Development, Board Bill 155 and 157. That's the extent of reference to committee.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bill was reported out of Ways and Means with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 139, introduced by Alderman Bosley, President Green, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderman Oldenburg, an ordinance calling and providing for the holding of election in the city of St. Louis on April the 4th, 2023, for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city of St. Louis a proposal to impose an additional sales tax for 3% on the retail sales of adult-use non-medical marijuana made in the city of St. Louis, containing an emergency clause. Election to be held on the general election, municipal election date prescribed by section 115.121.3 of Tuesday, April the 4th, 2023. That's the extent of second reading report of standing committees.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
Perfection consent calendar.
Board Bill 128, introduced by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing and directing the issuance, establishment of terms, and negotiated sale of the airport revenue bonds not to exceed $150 million to finance the cost of purchasing, extension, improvement, or enlargement of the airport, providing for the funding of any required debt services reserve funds for the payment of cost of issuance, appointing a trustee, approving the form of an indenture, and authorizing the preparation, execution, and delivery of such documents, and actions are as necessary or appropriate, repealing inconsistent prior ordinance provisions, and containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. That's the extent of perfection consent calendar.
Alderman from the 25th, you're recognized on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt the perfection consent calendar.
25th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 4th, that we adopt the perfection consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the suspension of the rules.
Thank you, Madam President. I think Kara Spencer might have been using this last. That's Alderwoman from the 20th Ward. This might actually be, I think, what we dubbed the honorary Alderman of the 8th when it was Alderman Conway. I think we named a microphone after him. Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move to suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 28 to, Board Bill 128 to the third reading and final passage calendar. Consent calendar. Thank you.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 13th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 128 to the third reading consent calendar. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Did he say pass? Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 128 to the third reading consent calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please place it at the end of the third reading consent calendar?
So noted.
Board Bills for perfection.
Board Bill 44, Committee Sub, sponsored by Alderwoman Rice, President Green, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Gunther, and Alderman Vaccaro. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis enacting a new section relating to the establishment of Charter Commission containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, members of the board. I move that we perfect Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we perfect Board Bill number 128. Alderwoman from the 8th, you may proceed.
Thank you. So we discussed a lot of this board bill on Friday. I do have an amendment. Amendment number 1 should be on your desks to Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute, and I am happy to read that as well. So beginning on page 4, line 13, after Alderman for confirmations, insert the following words and figures. So said nominations to the Charter Commission shall be made so as to provide for a total geographical representation of residents of this city. Geographical representation shall mean that at least 2 nominations from the mayor shall come from the geographical area south of Arsenal Street and extending to the city boundaries to the east, west, and south. And at least 2 nominations from the mayor shall come from the geographical area north of Page Boulevard at the western city limit east to Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, continuing north of Dr. Martin Luther King Drive to the eastern city limit and extending to the northern city boundaries. And at least 2 nominations from the mayor shall come from the geographical area between Arsenal Street to the south and Page Boulevard and Dr. Martin Luther King Drive to the north, as described in Section B, extending to the east and west city boundaries. And the remaining 3 nominations shall be made with the intent and purpose to represent as much of the city geographically as will provide for a wide diversity of perspectives and experiences of residents of the entirety of the city of St. Louis. So I move that we adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute. Any discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Madam President, members of the board, I rise to oppose this committee substitute amendment. When I left here, when was that, Friday, we had a different amendment which talked about 3, 3, and 3. Now we subtracted that out, and I had a conversation with the Alderwoman from the 8th. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been fighting this battle. We already have an ordinance that says things are supposed to be geographically equal. People, when I say that up until the former Francis Slay became the mayor still tried to do that. After he became the mayor, he went about his business not doing that, followed by the Cruzen administration, followed by now the Jones administration. They do not want to follow the simple thing of making sure that people are represented from all over the city. I find that just disgusting. And I have been fighting this battle. When Mayor Cruzen became the mayor, I brought up the whole commission and board, so she actually had our former attorney, who she took over to her office at that time, she had him print up a booklet with all the commissions and stuff like that. And as sure as your name is, whatever it is, what I said was true, that the people came from mostly the Central West End, South St. Louis, and then if they came from North St. Louis, they came from what is known right now as the 26th and the 18th Ward. So basically, for the last 20 years, those of us who live north of Page have been left out of everything. And so when I raised so much heck and I started doing the mapping, then they had something, and the alderman from the 25th was the chair of forestry. So then Forest Park came up. And so what I did is I raised so much hell that they took their nominations back under the Cruzen administration, and then they put 2 or 3 people from north of Page. But it wasn't because they was doing the right thing, and it wasn't because the Board of Aldermen was doing the right thing. It's because I kept raising hell about it, okay? So then, and so this has been going on. So then Mayor Jones gets in. I sent her the ordinance that's been the law, not for black people. It was actually put into effect when mostly Irish ran the city of St. Louis, and they were discriminating against the Italians and other people. So they would not let them, and the blacks, they would not let them be on boards and commissions. So, and you knew what part of town, it was just like what school you went to. That's what happened here. So they left people out. Our boards and commissions are supposed to be inclusive. They're supposed to include everybody. You're not supposed to have boards and commissions that leave people out. I was really proud, even though we didn't get to do the Board of Freeholders. The thing that we did with the Board of Freeholders is that we looked to include everybody: gays, Hispanics, women, north, south, central. Doesn't have to be who I want to be north. It just has to be some people who live in my part of town. And so that got waylaid. The current president became the chair of intergovernmental affairs, and then the former mayor said, well, that's okay, I don't want to do that, and that's what happened. So she wouldn't do it because she didn't want to deal with the now president, but was then the chair of intergovernmental affairs. But we had a diverse group of people. That is all I have ever asked for when I get up and talk about geography. So this now tries to undermine that. It undermines the ordinance that we already have in place with this committee substitute by saying the remaining 3 nominations shall be made with intent and purpose to represent as much of the city's geographically as well as provide for a wide diversity of perspectives and experience of residents of the entirety of the city of St. Louis. When you leave it at 3, 3, and 3, that makes it shall. Okay, that's like saying we're going to do the Board of Aldermen and we're going to be fair with the wards, except we're not. The redrawn wards that we have are ridiculous and horrible. And we're only going to have about 4 sure black wards. And black wards are not what white people pick somebody black and say you're the leader. It's when black people support and elect their own. Like, I can't go up and elect in the 16th ward or the 23rd ward and all of that, because white people live mostly over there and they elect their own. But when you start running things north and south, then you give white people undue influence over what's supposed to be black wards. This says, I don't want to guarantee that you have it. If you left it at 3, 3, and 3, then that guarantees that you have it, and it stands out if you don't pick somebody. It doesn't say you have to pick somebody that Sharon Tyus wants, the Alderwoman from the 1st or whatever, 20th, or maybe even the 12th. So I might actually get to represent 3 different wards living in the same house. But it does say you have to be and mandate that you follow an ordinance that we already have had in place, which is that you be geographically diverse. So then undermining it by saying, oh, no, we only want to do 2, 2, and 2, and leave some of it to some timing. What I've found at this place mostly is that when the mayor that you like is in office, then you go along with stuff that should not be gone along with. And the same thing sometimes with the president of the Board of Aldermen. And what it should be is driven by data and facts. The Alderwoman from the 8th has no data and facts about what has happened. I do. That's why I know this is a bad committee substitute. She should have left it at 3, 3, and 3. I was going to support that. I am not going to support, oh, we're going to let that be an intent and purpose. What is that? Is that like thoughts and prayers when they use guns? Is that what it is? That's exactly what it is. So when you really want to mandate something, then you mandate it. You say, this is what it should be. We already have an ordinance, and so we're undermining the ordinance we already have by putting this in here. If you want to make sure that we follow the law that's already in place, then we will put 3, 3, and 3. Now, she said to me, well, geographics are not the same, and I mean the numbers, the population. A good reason why the population is not the same in North St. Louis is because it's been purposely done that way. Starting with many years before redistricting, when you do redistricting, you ought to start with the strongest wards. So they never would have moved the 20th ward, but they did because they were undermining it. They didn't want there to be population. The 20th, the 21st, the 1st, the 2nd, those were all powerful black wards that got undermined over a period of time with a little kind of things like this. And people say, well, see, this is what I was trying to do. I don't need you to try to do that. I don't need you to try to pretend like you're doing that. This is not a good amendment. And I wasn't trying to, I told her, I said, so I didn't tell you that the populations had to be the same. I told you what I was doing is some restorative justice. When you leave my community out for 20 years and not had me on these boards and commission, then you come and say, well, we really don't want to do it that way. It's because you don't want me included. You don't want my community included. And this is not the way to do it. The way we had it, it didn't have to, I didn't say everything had to be the same population. It's not the same population in the other 2 geographical areas. We didn't do population. We did, hey, here's a south, here's a central, and here's a north. And so to undermine that, you come behind, didn't call me, didn't talk to me about it, didn't say anything about it, and then change it entirely, and then bring it to me today and try to talk to me about this is a great idea. Bring the data. If you do not have the data, then go back to 3, 3, 3. You don't have the data because if you had told me, I would have brought the book where you can see that all of these people who have been on these boards and commissions have not been anybody north of Page. And if you guys want to be fair, then do not adopt this, and let's adopt the one that we currently had. And all we got to do is scratch out D and change 2 to 3 under A, B, and C, and then we get talking about something that's a lot more fair. We're not trying to undermine what's already the rest of the thing. We're just saying we want 3 people north of Page. They may all be people who agree with other people, but they may not. But it should not be that people are left out about where they live, because sooner or later, that might be what happens to you. I never support it. I don't support not following the rules and the regulations. I don't support not following the charter. Even if I know somebody's going to come and be an ally of somebody else, and I'm looking right at you, Alderman from the 28th Ward, that made no difference to me where I took my stance, and you know that, okay? And that's who I am. This is bad. This is not a good amendment. This is a bad amendment that is I don't want to say racist, but I want to say it's excluding people from north of Page. And since we've been excluded so much, how do you make up for it? You say, we're going to guarantee you have this many people from north of Page. So I am opposed to this amendment. I hope we can vote this down, and then we can come back and change the amendment back to 3, 3, and 3. It's a very little thing, and it'll be a lot fairer than what this is. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th? Alderman from the 3rd.
Madam President, if I could just respond, I don't need to close yet, but if I could respond. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about why I moved this to 2, 2, and 2 with our remaining 3 sort of floating. So the ordinance that's currently on the books for boards and commissions says that they shall be filled in such a manner as to be representative of the total city by wards, except where otherwise provided by law. And at the moment, under the new ward map, there are 4 wards that are north of Page. There are 10 wards that are south of Page. So if we were to go off of the old ordinance, then we would have even less representation than would be provided for by this charter commission in this amendment. What the goal here is looking at population and looking at historical data. So right now, a third of the city population is north of is a little further south of Del Mar in order to get a full third of the city population on the northern third of the city of St. Louis. Recognizing that particularly the people who live north of Page have been the most historically excluded, have been the most undermined by development and the ways that our predecessors had prioritized development in the city, making sure that there are specifically folks north of Page into the Charter Commission is more enforcement than what is currently in the ordinance for boards and commissions. The other piece of this is that in order for anyone to even be in front of the mayor's office for nomination to the Charter Commission, they have to be selected by seated members of the Board of Aldermen. So as this process works through, folks will apply to be on the Charter Commission. The new Board of Aldermen, the new 14 aldermen, will receive all of those applications. Each alderman will choose 3 nominees to send over to the mayor's office, and then the mayor has to choose from that pool. So in order for there to be applicants that fit the requirements that we are looking for, they have to be nominated by the members of the Board of Aldermen going forward. And there's removed or did not include restrictions as you had to select people from your ward. You could select people from wherever in the city that is beneficial. I mean, that if you see a qualified candidate and you want to put them forward, then you can put them forward, and then they come through the mayor selection process and then back to the Board of Aldermen for transparent hearings, and then a full approval by the new Board of Aldermen. So there's a few pieces here. It doesn't rely just on the mayor's office to make these choices. It relies on the new Board of Aldermen to make these choices as well. So, and knowing that population has moved, that this is a charter amendment for an every 10-year commission, trying to account for both the historic boundaries that have existed in the city and where population has been disinvested in, and then also for the potential for movement, leaving 3 as, or could be 3, it could be less than 3, because the A, B, and C say at least 2. So there could be more nominations from each of those areas. But leaving those as floaters leaves us a little more open to find the best people qualified to be seated on the commission, and those can be from any parts of the city. So I'm happy to discuss further here, but that's the rationale for leaving those where they are, so that the population in each of the 3 areas has an opportunity to be seated on the commission, both in 2023, 2033, 2043, and et cetera. So.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman from the 3rd, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Would the Alderwoman from the 8th yield for questioning?
The
Questions?
Alderwoman from the 8th yield to questions from the Alderman from the 3rd.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you. While it seems that this is kind of pretty straightforward, my first question would be, what is your intent in particular with this amendment?
So before putting forward this amendment, there were no requirements in the Charter Commission bill that anyone be from any particular parts of the city. We hadn't lined that out. That would be entirely up to the new 14 members of the Board of Aldermen and the Mayor's office of how those folks would be selected going forward. So trying to account for the concerns that the Alderwoman from the 1st raised at the last meeting, and looking at current population trends along with historical situations, just trying to line that out in a way that still is able to move the commission forward.
So the short answer to that is, which I appreciate, is this pretty much how do we select people throughout the city, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I guess that would mean that we're looking at, I guess, what in particular. So what it says here is geographical. Are you only paying attention to geographics as the definition of geographics? Because this is geographical, and if your intent is to figure out the best way to have some sort of diversity, which is what it says here on letter D, this will provide a wide diversity of perspectives and experiences of residents, which are people, not rocks, or dirt, trees. They're not geography. Of the entirety of the city of St. Louis. So with that, the entire amendment speaks of geography, which is, by definition, belonging to the characteristics of a particular region, the geographic features of a land space, right? So are we looking at, from this particular amendment, changing or making changes to the commission based on only geography? Because that is what, and I guess that's just one question in itself. Are we only looking at geography here?
So the page 1 of the Charter Commission bill here says that whereas work to amend our charter should reflect the diversity of our city along a range of criteria, race, gender, socioeconomic status, geography, age, and more, that is built into the intent as of this commission coming into existence. So that is the preface. This amendment does only speak to geographic representation. It is incredibly difficult when making a charter commission, something that is going to reoccur every 10 years, to line out any further demographic criteria on that. That is where the Board of Aldermen comes in. That is where the people, as we attend hearings, come in, trying to account for a wide diversity of folks who are going to be seated on this commission for the course of a year to do this work. So like the Alderman from the first described about the slate that came in front of us for the Board of Freeholders and the work that was done there was a lot of work done to get a really great slate of people who were diverse both in geography and age and race and background, and that is the goal here as well, is to follow in those footsteps. But the geographic representation is important in the city, as you know, because of the ways that we have geographically disinvested in communities and in people. So this geographic representation, and especially when we're talking about something as structural as the charter, to really get that understanding and feel from people who are in different geographic parts of the city is really important.
Thank you. For the members of the board who are paying attention, which I believe everybody is, Alderwoman, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your intent, but you continue to use the word geographical and demographical interchangeably. You talk about race, you talk about people, yet your amendment says nothing about human beings. It's strictly geographical. And if you are with the intent here and purpose to represent as much of the city geographically, which is what you're continuing to speak about, if you're really trying to create some sort of a system where it will provide a wide diversity of perspective and experiences for residents, then you also must put people, you also must put race, you also must put those other words that you just utilize in trying to explain the intent and purpose that only goes to geographical when we actually explain this entire committee substitute, right? If we look at demographics, on the other hand, opposed to geographical, we're not talking about structures. We're talking about age, race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, income, education, employment, all those different things that make up a resident within the city of St. Louis. These people aren't places. They aren't things. People will always move from one place to another geographically. If it floods in one part of the city today and we're forced to shut that part of the city down, folks will geographically have to relocate, but that will change the demographics of that particular area, and those individuals who represented that area prior to those individuals having to geographically move themselves now become a part of the demographic in another geographical space. We can't make this simply about geographics because our people aren't rocks. They move. They get up and they walk. They have experiences, and every single day those experiences move them to different places and get them in different places that they never thought that they would be based on weather and a gang of other things, just human nature in general. So when we go out here and we talk about creating a commission of people, Alderwoman from the first got up last week and passionately spoke about the importance of representation, not representation from rocks, not representations from only the north side of town. She spoke about black people. We have the first Asian American here, and one day we'll have the first Bosnian on the board. One day we may have the first Nigerian. We don't know what's coming to this board. But when you set up things based on geographical location only, and we don't look at the demographics of the people who make up the city whom we're trying to represent right now, it alludes to we care more about spaces than people. Not you yourself, but Once again, we're talking about where it is that these people should come from, which is great. But we don't also talk about the demographic makeup of what this board should look like, which is what you just had 4 minutes or 2 minutes, however much that was to speak about before I re-engaged. So with that, once again, I want you to explain your geographical idea of how this is supposed to work out.
Well, so this entire thing is as how geographical representation shall mean that, and then these 4 items, right? So the request that I had last week was to include geographical representation.
Yes, ma'am.
Like I said, the beginning of Board Bill 44 does speak to the other ranges of demographics criteria that you described. So gender, race, socioeconomic status, geography, age, and more. That is already included in the bill.
Why isn't it included in your amendment?
Because it's already in the bill. So it doesn't need to also be in the amendment. It is already present.
Well, when we talk about intent and purpose, that's not present in the intent and purpose. Intent and purpose is almost the same thing. So I would think when we're talking about 3 remaining nominations, saying when intent and purpose to represent as much as the city geographically, that'd be another reason for us to go into what that actually means geographically and breaking that down, since we already have it in some parts of the bill. And if we're talking geographics at the same time, maybe we should once again reiterate, which we do all the time within bills, and being able to actually, ensure that things work out within this geographical area with that racial breakdown or whatever the demographics that you have inside of the bill. We can easily also put that inside of D or anywhere else that you like to ensure that those potential demographics play out in the geographical areas that you have outlined. Because if we're going to take the time to geographically outline these areas, we also have to take the time to demographically outline within those geographical areas how these things are supposed to lay out and play out. So, with that in particular, can you describe intent and purpose to me, and then I'll yield. I'm just trying to get a good idea of what this is supposed to completely outline. Intent and purpose is based on idea.
Sure. Well, so are a lot of the demographic categories that we fall into. We are not singular as people, as residents here in the city. We aren't just residents of the north side or south side or central quarter. We're not just male or female or gender nonconforming. We are multitudes of things. And so people who are nominated from the Board of Aldermen, then to the mayor, and then nominated back to the Board of Aldermen could fit in multiple of these categories. And that's part of what we're trying to account for here, is that the intent and purpose is including geography, and as will provide for a wide diversity of perspectives and experiences of residents of the entirety of the city. Because there are people with unique experiences, there are people with unique skills, with history and the jobs that they've done, that have encountered the charter, that have work history, and
that's what we're trying to get to.
But to strictly prescribe what it is, so we should have one gay person, we should have one Indian person, we can't, I legally don't think that we can do that. I think that we run into some discrimination policies if we were to prescribe that far. There's a piece of this that has to be based on the best efforts of the aldermen to come after us here. So I guess part of the question back to you then is, do you not think that the Board of Aldermen, that this next 14-member Board of Aldermen, will be able to find the best representative folks of the city of St. Louis in order to seat on this commission? Because there is a back and forth process here between the board and the mayor's office that allows for public hearing, that allows for testimony, that allows the board to reject nominees and send them back to the mayor's office. So part of this has to be, we, the Board of Aldermen, will work to ensure the success of this commission. This isn't some standalone thing. It is going to require the work of the Board of Aldermen to put this forward. So do you believe that next Board of Aldermen can can accomplish what you're asking for.
I think that in the next 120 days, the next Board of Aldermen will be here, and you should give them a chance to make the decision on themselves when you yourself have said that you don't plan on being here. I think that the appropriate way to do this, with us restructuring the entire government of the city of St. Louis, that hasn't been done ever. This has never been done. And
We've
hold
had
on 1
charter
second,
commissions
because you
before.
asked me a question.
Sure.
So with that, and I actually have the floor, respectfully, and I will answer your question. But to answer your question, no, I don't think we're equipped, and I'll tell you why. You have the knowledge of the last 5, 7 years, however long that you've been here, and how long the individuals who came before you, whoever mentored you, whoever got the information, whoever got you going to the particular point that you are right now, you still have those relationships. You can reach out. What happens if we get, like right now, we see there are new people who've never been a part of the board in a place where they don't understand everything that has happened prior to what is getting ready to happen right now, right? So you're setting up right now a board, a commission of individuals whom no one in the entire Board of Aldermen has ever encountered. None of us have the experience of having a conversation with a commission set up to change the city charter. Not one person in this room has had that experience. If I'm wrong, raise your hand. Let me stop talking. That's right. So we're going to bring brand new individuals into a city structure in which none of us has taken the time over the last 6 years, 8 years, the 10 years that this has been coming, to leave behind breadcrumbs for those individuals on how it is that they're supposed to do the order of business for the city of St. Louis. We have board bills in streets and other places and games that are just germane, just regular board bills that are supposed to get done to approve things every single year. We haven't laid out one document that says, hey, every single year, these things got to be done. This is just a regular order of business. Never been done. So with that being said, we're going to set up also a commission of individuals and leave behind nothing for them to have had done prior to getting to this particular place in the board where they're controlling laws for an entire city. So we're going to restructure the entire board and then restructure the entire charter, and not give those individuals who are supposed to come into this new government enough time to at least restructure the board, because we don't know if 2 assistants is enough. We don't know if 3 is enough, 4 of us. We really don't have no idea, because this has never been done before. So I don't believe the new board is equipped, and you, like I know, and we all know, that there is no documents out there that not one of us have created. Not one person in this Board of Aldermen right now can raise their hand. Not a one of y'all. Because we at the bottom of it. This is truth. This is truth on top of truth on top of truth. Let me talk to the public. Truth. There's not one document. Listen to me. Not one. To every single resident in the city of St. Louis. There's not a document waiting for you when you get to the Board of Aldermen at all, on how it is that we're going to do this new structure of the city of St. Louis. We don't have one board bill that's been approved and signed by the mayor. Not one on how it is our assistants are going to be. We don't have no new services for you. None. Not a thing. There's no new grass pickup, no new grass cut. There ain't nothing out there in these board bills for you to ensure that your streets are paved. Nothing. Nothing that these people are going to be able to pick up. Now, there are board bills, I'll say that we just approved to do this or that. We got an infrastructure bill that the mayor's put out. Great. All these things are amazing. But the truth is, when you come into this board, you don't get a booklet that says these are the things that every single year the board has to approve. These are just regular board bills to ensure we can keep the city going. You don't get that. You have nothing. You get the Board of Aldermen rules as a packet, bow, sit on your desk, read that. That's what you got. That's all you get. We don't have no orientation classes. I want you to know this. This is real. Because we are the individuals that's supposed to make sure that your bills are paid, your trash is picked up. It's a reason why they ain't been done. And it ain't just the mayor's office or the board of aldermen. There's a whole lot of things that happen inside of city government, and we need to be all the way true with it, because every single person in this building right now may not be here. Not every single person, but all these aldermen. They may not be here very, very soon. So when your grass is really not being cut, and trash is really not being picked up, and folks are talking about creating some sort of a commission to break up the entire way, possibly, that the Board of Aldermen even does business, because everybody's pissed off about the whole city. We all mad. Grass ain't getting cut. Trash ain't being picked up. We ain't seeing none of these millions and trillions of dollars that we supposed to have. I'm sorry, not trillions, but everybody feels what I'm saying. We all this money that's out here, and we still having the same lackluster services. This ain't on just a few individuals, and we cannot continue to put that on a few individuals. This will get worse. I promise y'all, this is going to get worse, because the Board of Aldermen in the last 10 years, and this is the truth, has nothing set up for the new Board of Aldermen that's supposed to be here. Nothing. There's nothing that we've done at all to ensure that the city has some sort of a path forward. And to give individuals out of the general public, to give you all a commission that is supposed to have the power over the Board of Aldermen that ain't even have the power over services. And we literally this isn't where it's supposed to be, and we all know this. So with that being said, I don't think that it's smart. I don't think that it is intelligent for us right now, without having exactly what this new board is supposed to encounter written down as a board, and what we've encountered already. They don't have no direction. No direction with their new assistants. Those are things that we're trying to figure out. Thank you, President of the Board of Aldermen right now. And I'm not saying that people haven't been working on this. But as of now, we are trying to work on it. But we got how many months? How many months? It's been years. Over 10 years. This board has been slated to reduce. 10 years. And we have nothing set up for these people. Am I wrong, Alderwoman Rice? Is there any one board bill that gives them an idea of what they're coming into? Just one.
I think we have a couple of proposed bills that are
No.
committed right now.
Is it one that has been signed into law?
And we,
Amendment number 1 to Board Bill 44 to clean up.
Well, that's right. And I believe that this right now, and us talking about creating a mission to create and restructure the charter.
Please keep your comments germane to the amendment.
Well, let me tie this in real quick then.
There we go.
Make this work. All right. So with that being said, we're trying to create a commission that creates rules and regulations, possibly, because they do have Alderwoman Rice. Would you agree that this commission would have power over creating laws and rules and regulations for the Board of Aldermen?
subject to the vote of the people.
Yes or
With
no?
the support of the city councilor's office, so that they do have historical knowledge. They
Yes.
will have support in moving through this.
Okay.
Because we built that into the
Can
commission.
we just say yes or no? Will they have the ability, truthfully, just to be able to, if with all of the information that we got,
With the
let's just say
support
yes
of the
or no?
voters,
Yes, sir. Yes,
they
ma'am.
can change the charter. That is it. They
Understood.
can suggest amendments to the charter to the voters.
All right, so with that being said, someone having the power over the Board of Aldermen, which is what we are talking about, and the Board of Aldermen still hasn't regulated itself under its new governmental structure. Do we have any board bills that we've passed right now that oversees the brand-new Board of Aldermen come March or April? One board bill that has been approved, signed by any mayor? Yes or no?
That's a difficult question.
Well, it's really not, because
Well, it
if
is
it's in
because a
law, we
lot
can
of the
pull it up right now.
functions-
You can tell me the ordinance
A
number, and
lot
I'll
of the
make this
functions
happen.
of the city, of the Board of Aldermen will continue to be the same under this new 14.
It's a
And
yes or no question, Alderwoman Rice. Do we have?
so then, yes, we do.
So
Like,
can you give me an ordinance number that we can read about the new structure of the Board of Aldermen that wasn't approved by the voters just yet?
It's not, well, I mean, the redistricting is the new structure of the
Well,
Board
I
of
know, I
Aldermen.
said that wasn't approved by the voters. How, can you give me one ordinance?
Redistricting wasn't approved by the voters.
Can you give me one
To stay.
automatic rule?
We're talking about the amendment. Stay focused on the amendment. We will
Okay.
debate the
If I
full
could-
bill after the amendment.
Okay, so with the amendment, okay? With us providing intent and purpose to represent as much of the city geographically as possible, has the Board of Aldermen at all, since you have been part of it, provided any way for the city of St. Louis, under the new structured government, to create a diverse, way geographically in which, number one, the board could be represented in the event that we do have a commission?
I'm sorry, I think I
For the
lost you in
charter.
there somewhere. So with this amendment?
Well, yeah,
I'm sorry.
so I guess, because we got to tie it in, I guess. So what I'm saying is, we want to change the commission, right? We want to have a commission over the Board of Aldermen, right?
Well, we want a commission over the entire charter of
We
the
want a
city of St.
commission
Louis,
over
not
the
just the Board
charter,
of
which
Aldermen.
oversees the Board of Aldermen. The charter does.
It is a governing document,
And
yes.
the commission would oversee the Board of Aldermen per charter, because they could supersede anything that the Board of Aldermen puts out
If
by
they
going out
choose-
to the vote of the people,
If
correct?
they choose to address anything
Yes.
that deals with the Board of Aldermen, then
Absolutely.
yes.
Okay, so, all right, so there we go. So since the board has been on its way to reducing, right? And we know that things are demographically right now inequitable, would you agree? Would you not agree? Are things not demographically inequitable?
What is demographically inequitable? I'm sorry, I'm having a very hard time following you.
I don't
So
think you are. I
what
think
is-
you just
what
don't
is
like
it-
answering certain questions. It gets interesting.
Alderman Bosley, please don't presume that I'm not, I'm trying to follow your line of
Okay.
questioning here. So, is what demographically inequitable? The Board of Aldermen, the makeup of the Board of Aldermen?
Yeah.
I think that there's a fair argument to be made that the way that the current wards were drawn, the way that the new wards were drawn is demographically inequitable.
All
Yes.
right, thank you. So with that being said, with the board being where it is right now, and us talking about creating a commission, you do believe that the board right now is geographically inequitable? I mean, not demographically inequitable. I have to go through this, but yes, right? Pretty
Yeah,
much,
if
yes.
I was
All right,
going to
yes.
redraw the ward boundaries, they would look different, yes.
But right now, demographically inequitable.
Sure.
Would you believe that they are geographically inequitable?
No, I mean, they meet the constitutional requirements for one person, one vote.
So, demographics is broken up once again by what? Race, color, age, jobs, all that good stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, would you believe that it is racially inequitable?
The Board of Aldermen currently.
Yes.
I think that there's a good argument to be made for that because of
How?
where it
When
is.
it's just numbers. All we do is count
So-
them out on black people, Asian people, and white people. Is it demographically through racial? Is it racially inequitable or not? It's just a simple yes or no, because everybody in here can say what race they are. I'm black or African American. I can count everybody else. Once again,
So-
it's just a yes or no question.
I mean, looking at the population of the city of St. Louis, I don't know that we exactly reflect the demographics, the racial demographics of the city of St. Louis in here.
Thank you. So, all right. With that being said, would you also say that geographically, because most of these individuals are in some sort of a geographic, so with that, we live in an area, we represent these areas, would you say that also the board is geographically inequitable?
Oh, well.
If you look at where we live, and it's public knowledge.
Sure. Well,
Just
so
getting
it's
to a
difficult
particular
because
point.
we don't represent land, we represent people.
Wow, so why are we talking about geographical representation right here in your amendment?
Because that is
That's
what
I'm getting
was
to.
requested, Alderman Bosley. That was, and understanding the historic disinvestment in the people and in the land in the city of St. Louis is why there are the breakdowns the way that they are in this suggested amendment. We're trying to both accommodate and understand past wrongs and work to correct them in the future, and also deal with the reality of where it is that people are in the city currently and the different demographics of people that we have. And so humans are flexible. We move, there are things about us that are immutable. There are things about us that change, right? And trying to account for all of these specific things is incredibly difficult in this position. And I think that when we ask the new folks who are, anyone who is running for office this next time, we can ask them about the Charter Commission. This will be on the ballot at the same time as they are coming through, and we can ask them, what do they think about this?
What's the rush, though? Why won't we just ask them and allow them to ask the general public when they get here? It's less than 120 days. Why are we rushing?
We're not rushing. This was proposed back in June. So
well, that's a rush when we actually are getting ready to reduce, and we can just allow them to have their time to look at this as well.
I don't think it's a rush. We've had 4 committee hearings on this. So our body, we have dealt with in the last 5 years more attempts to change the charter, to change the structure of city government through Better Together that was done without us, through Proposition R was a big one that was done without us, the Board of Freeholders that we never successfully implemented. So I would argue that this body of people has more engaged with the function and structure of city government than maybe any other Board of Aldermen that's come before. So we actually have a lot of knowledge here. We've encountered these ideas, we've thought about them, we've discussed them, our citizens have. I've had numerous conversations at public meetings about all of this because a lot of our residents were also involved in previous plans to change the charter.
Alderwoman, were your residents involved with this amendment? Were your residents involved? We said last week that you never had one meeting about this, not one by itself. You said you mentioned it. Have you still not had one meeting with your residents whom you're actually bringing up as being individuals who are supportive of this? Because if you haven't had one meeting just about this, how can you simply say that your residents are supportive? My residents don't know about it like that. They hear about it through the news. And I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other people don't know about this. Why are you working on creating a commission for the people, about the people, but not interested or have not taken the time, to educate the people, your people as well? Why haven't you had one meeting in your community about this?
I've discussed this with citizens at several neighborhood meetings.
What about just one meeting going through the language in it, having them speak at hearings because they haven't?
We put out the hearings to the public. We publicized those. We requested folks to come and speak on this. And so it is our job as representatives of the people to also propose legislation for them. It is not something we can't take every single bill that comes in front of the Board of Aldermen to the people, and especially for something like this that is going to come to them for public vote anyway, right? So if we pass
no, it's
this
not
as
anyway, because
it is a charter amendment
if this
that
goes
has to go to the vote.
If this goes out in March, right? April. How many days is that to go out there and educate all of these thousands of people who are also trying to educate themselves on the new individuals who are potentially running for office?
So
How
I
much
think it's
time
a
have we
question-
given them?
I think that the people running for office should be discussing this as well. I think that this is something we can do multiple things at the same time. And honestly, part of the reason for trying to go ahead and move this bill forward now is so that we have more time to talk to our residents throughout the next coming months.
When
It's
is the
more than 4
highest-
months now that we have the ability to have conversations out in public. And if the voters, listen, voters in the city of St. Louis don't always like charter amendments. There are things that we've shot down, there are things that we've supported. And so I think it is a wonderful time to have this debate. And part of the reduction of the Board of Aldermen was always supposed to be sort of a starting point for potential other reforms. The last time there was a charter commission before, it just happened to be in 1949, right? So none of us were seated on that charter commission back in 1949.
Right.
Those amendments that charter commission came up with were rejected at the vote, right? And that can happen. And if the charter commission comes up with bad charter amendments, then the people of St. Louis will vote them down. But we have to both be representatives of our people and legislators in bringing forward strategic, structural changes.
But this
to
ain't
try to make the
strategic or
city-
structural. This
is.
Well, it's not strategic. It's not. It can't be. Because if this is a strategy on us trying to ensure that individuals have the knowledge that they need to be able to make educated decisions, then we know that just like Better Together and all these other entities that have worked hard in the city, they don't throw something out most of the time about 2 months before, it's voting time. They go out there and they have thousands of people. Do you plan on having postcards sent to every single voter in the city of St. Louis? Do you plan on having thousands of dollars put in a TV ad so individuals can ensure that they know what it is that you're potentially pushing as an alderperson to ensure that they have the necessary resources that they can make an educated vote? Are you having, do you have already set in your plethora, or your bank account, whatever it is that you got, are you going to put thousands of dollars into educating voters like the other individuals who go out here and make charter changes do? Are you prepared right now to put thousands into educating the voters of the city of St. Louis about this charter change, or potential charter change?
The goal is to work with community organizations.
That's a yes or
and
no.
work with-
Are you going to?
I am working towards that goal, yes.
So you're
So
working
that-
towards trying to find some funding. Do you have $1,000? Is it $500? How much you got right now for the
Alderman,
voters?
we're way out of,
Well, this is, I'm asking about the
No, and
amendment.
Alderman,
Because
if
if you're
Alderman,
going to
I've-
educate voters, then you should have some money to do it. I'm asking, what organizations have you worked with that showed up to the committee hearing? Which organizations, because you're talking about organizations, all right, so it's germane. What organizations?
It's actually not germane to the amendment.
all right, okay, so what-
I'm
it
gonna
is.
stop
Alderman,
yielding
is
at
it
the
not?
moment.
Please keep it on the amendment. We'll debate the bill in its
With the
entirety
amendment, what-
after the amendment.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. What organizations showed up, who did? Okay, once again, none of the individuals who showed up to the committee hearing knew about this amendment. And I don't think that this is the best thing to be doing right before we have a new board come into existence here in the Board of Aldermen. This is like the 9th hour when we're talking about putting people in a position to change the entire city charter. And we aren't doing anything necessary to ensure that the voters of City of St. Louis know that this is getting ready to change. We don't have no hearing set up. We don't have nothing set up in the future from now all the way into where it's supposed to be voted on by the voters. There's nothing there. So with that being said, I rise especially in unsupportive of this, but this ain't even well thought out. And it's not well thought of at the same time. We got up and spoke about specific things last time, and none of them are addressed. So with that being said, once again, our residents are looking at us, they're watching us, and we haven't educated them on this at all. With the Alderwoman Schweitzer stand for questioning, yield for questioning. Alderwoman from the 13th, yield for questioning.
18th yield. You may proceed.
All right, since last Friday, have you thought of any new things that you'd like to change in the charter? Just like one thing, maybe two?
I will answer questions on the amendment.
All right, what is your idea of intent and purpose?
Can I speak to these pieces? I've been standing here for a while trying to speak to your points on the amendment, so can I speak you can time me 1 minute.
I don't know, do
And
your
then if
thing.
I didn't answer the question, we'll come back. How's that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So listening to my colleagues talk about this amendment, I'm hearing the Alderwoman from the first say that the first three, A, B, and C, should be 3 nominations each. And then I'm hearing my colleague from the third talk about how people aren't rocks and that they are movable and that they can be diverse and have diverse experiences and perspectives all over the city of St. Louis. And perhaps what I'm hearing him say is that the geography isn't perhaps the best way of dividing the city. So when I'm listening to both of them speak, I'm looking at this amendment and I'm thinking, this is a compromise. The first 3 talk about geography. The last one accounts for the fact that people are movable and make sure that there's diversity of perspectives and experiences across the entirety of the city of St. Louis. So to me, I'm not quite, I guess maybe both of you are against the amendment for different reasons, but to me, this is a compromise from what you all we're talking about, if I'm, hearing you speak and taking in your words as you've meant them. So with the intent and purpose to represent as much of the city geographically, to me, that line means that while D is looking at the wide diversity of perspectives and experiences, that geography the intent and purpose is to also take geography in D. So like I said, this seems to me like a compromise between what the alderman from the 3rd and the alderwoman from the 1st want to see in this amendment. 1 minute.
Gotcha. So with that, I'll say, listen, truthfully, every day we wake up to gunshots. We go to sleep to them as well, unfortunately. And people want to change the blocks that they live on. And they may still fit a particular demographic, but geographically they have to remove themselves so they can just stay alive and be a part of the demographics that exist within the city of St. Louis. Just like you spoke about experiences, those are extremely important when it comes down to bringing information to the table and us being able to say there's a well-rounded discussion happening here. So with those experiences, those are the things that I'm talking about that I believe is missing out of the geographics that we are laying out, right? Within these same things, we can say possibly, because I'm not, I'm against the substitute for more than just one reason, but just being able to pick this out of it. And just being able to say in general, I still don't agree with the idea of just D in general because it's subjective. To me, it comes down to how you feel. It's almost intent and purpose is based on perspective. Like it really, really is. Every purpose is different, and people's intent become different based on where it is that you live and the experiences that you have and certain things that happen to you. Some people put up cameras because somebody just broke into their house and they want to catch that person, not everybody else, but this one person because they stole a specific thing. Some people put up cameras because they want to be preventative. All these things create a different idea for what intent is, and you can have the exact same thing, but your intended purpose on utilizing it is different. Some people get shovels to dig up dandelions. Some of them get them to knock down beehives. I'm just saying that the intent is different. So being able to actually have some more meat and being able to say that this is what the intent is, and then we're talking about geographically as well. In my community, the one that I represent, we have white people, we have black folks, we have, some of them are poor, some of them are not. We have, individuals from certain parts of Africa. We do have Nigerians. We have a plethora of different demographics within this geographical location, and they also need representation, right? If you go into certain parts of the city, you got Bosnians there, and we're not carving out a small spot for them to be on that commission as well. We're saying if you live within this geographical location, you're tied in with all the white guys, right? But they are different. They're not just white. They have a paler skin. They may be darker, but, per this, geographically, you're tied in with everybody else, but you represent a different culture. We all represent different cultures, especially within this city where right down the road, you have totally different ways that the neighborhood treats itself. You have different ways that individuals are supposed to behave in that neighborhood. So with that, culturally, our city is very, very different. We can't blanket this city. That's why we got 28 Aldermen. That's why all of these people were created, because a long, long time ago, individuals looked at the city and said, we just too different. We got immigrants here, we got black folks here, we got white folks there, but they ain't really white. Those are, Bosnians, and we got some Indians over here. The city was a melting pot along the river at some point in time, and just around her. So I believe that when we talk about diversity, we have to really look into what diversity is, because a lot of times we talk diversity and we don't feel like diversity is something that's equitable. We don't feel, because right now we can say that the board is diverse, but it's truly not. Demographically, the way the city is broke up, this is not a diverse board. It has diversity, but is it diverse as an exact word? It's not, because there's no equitability there. There's never been 13 black people with 2.2% other within the city, and then we got 13 white folks. We've never had that demographic makeup to where there's real equitability. So when we have these particular conversations and we're talking about creating some sort of a commission that's supposed to represent us all, I don't think we can do it only on demographics, especially when we break, I'm not demographics, geographics, when we break up geographical areas, because our geographical areas, no matter how large or small they are, just 2 blocks up the road can demographically be totally different. So, with that, I do understand where you're coming from in terms of it seeming to be something that looks like a compromise. But for us, there's never been 14 black aldermen. There's never been enough of us to where we can actually have a real conversation with everybody in this room and have half and half, and then the board president or the mayor make that decision and say, you know what? I'll take the last vote. I'll take the last this. It's never happened. You all live comfortably. And I'm not saying comfortably in a place where you don't have gunshots. There's plenty of you all as white people that live under the same type of gunshots that we hear. Few of y'all. I mean, y'all got family members who live the same way we live. I will never say that you all don't know what it's like to have pain, to feel pain, because it gotta pain y'all to know that we're in pain as well. I would not say that in no way, shape, form, or fashion, but I will say that you all may not truly know what it feels like to not have equity. And that's a real thing, because no matter if you are a certain ethnicity or not, the color in this state has always been your ticket to what you consider this is just true, the right way to do things, right? I mean, it just is what it is. White folks stick together. They always do, no matter what race you are, and we all know this, it's my culture, you all stick together. And we're trying to do nothing but the same thing and saying that, hey, this is inequitable. If I don't care if you are half black or half Asian or this and that, hey man, we've never seen equity in this board. We have seen some sort of equality to some degree when we get down here and we vote, but equitability, that's a totally different thing, and this just don't do it. We're talking about geographics. And when you go in my neighborhood and you look at the 11,000 to 13,000 people that I represent, they all are represented in this amendment, even though it would seem that way. But if you walked my blocks and you went up to Old North and you went up to the JVL where we have some of the most homicides, and then you find this slice of heaven in a JVL where there are no homicides, but everybody look like me. But they're not necessarily African American. So, with those things being said, there are different ethnicities, there are different demographics that exist within these geographical locations, and I don't believe that they're being accounted for. And I think we have to look at, if this is something that we're talking about doing as a commission, we got to do this a little bit better. We have to really go out and go to those places where there's, different people that we haven't had come to meetings. I haven't seen one Nigerian come and speak at a board meeting since I've been here. I know I didn't see any here in support of this board bill during the committee hearing or anything like that. So, with once again, with that being said, this I don't believe is equitable. I don't think that we're looking at the entire whole city as a whole, because we're a melting pot. We come from a lot of different places and cultures, and if we're looking at changing the entire charter, it ain't just us that was enslaved here. You had Indians that had their land taken. They are also a part of Missouri. You had Bosnians that have been, you'll talk to some of them, they feel left out as well. There's an Asian community here that feels left out as well. If we're going to change the charter, we need to change the charter for everybody, and every single walk of life that exists in this city should be represented on that charter commission. Every single person. No matter where you come from. I don't care if you are black or white, but your culture, who you are, is different from the color of your skin. And if we are really talking about demographics and geographics at the same time, we gotta realize that we're a melting pot. Plenty of you all live in immigrant neighborhoods. Neighborhoods with immigrants. Why aren't they mentioned here and ensure that they have a spot at the table as well? So let's make it equitable, not only equal. This isn't the way as it stands right now today. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 13th.
Thank you so much. I appreciated being able to get to say what I thought about the amendment being a compromise during the Alderman from the 3rd's questions. yeah, I guess I'm, still of that mindset that there's a piece that divides it geographically, and then a piece that accounts for, diversity of perspectives and experiences that could take place. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Alderwoman from the 20th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to address some of the issues brought up by the alderman from the 3rd. Alderman, I think you have some very salient points about the fact that the Board of Aldermen hasn't prepared for the reduction of the board. In fact, I think we've done very little over the 10 years that we've had this before us. And I think it's really a shame. And really, I can't point to any one of us. Really, the leader of the board during that time is no longer here for good reason. But we haven't adequately prepared, and there are many things that are still missing. And I think that really points to a Board of Aldermen that has so many responsibilities on our plates, so many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis, the gunshots, the lack of garbage collection, the potholes, all of the things that we as aldermen deal with when the city isn't able to do the job that our residents expect as taxpayers, as citizens, as human beings on this planet in a developed nation. And they are not receiving those services from their city government that they so deserve. And we fill in those gaps, and we spend a lot of time doing that. And it comes at the expense of really being prepared for movements like the reduction of the Board of Aldermen. And I think that really, unfortunately, points to what I would consider, some necessary outside input. And I think it really kind of points to the need for having commissions, like a charter commission or other involvement to help, move some of these things forward. I would have loved to have seen a reduction commission made up of citizens and folks that could have helped us prepare and help provide an outside, unbiased look at how to get some of these things done. That being said, I recognize as well that when you set up commissions and they do have authority, in the case of the Charter Commission, what we're proposing here is putting before the voters an opportunity to set a commission that would have the authority to then propose amendments to the charter back to the voters. So we're proposing to set up some group of citizens that would be empowered to propose changes back to the citizenry. And that is an awesome power. And when we're doing something like that, it is important that it's equitable and that it's got fair representation. I think I can appreciate the intent of the amendment to maybe set that up population-based in a way. I think the Alderwoman from the 1st bringing forth this amendment geographically and outlining that last week in good faith has a tremendous amount of merit. And I think thinking about it in terms of geography, where people should live, and the fact that we don't have as many people living north of Page as the city once did, and we have infrastructure to house and to have, is a problem, and one that we should be rectifying and working every day to address as a city. And so recognizing that while there may not be the same number of people living north of Page as we have living in other areas, I think it's important to maybe work towards a city where that isn't the case, and we do have, geographically speaking, the same density across our neighborhoods, and the same services, level of services in the same, have one city. With that, I'd like to ask the Alderman from the 3rd a quick question, if you would yield.
Alderman from the 3rd, will you yield for questions from the Alderwoman from the 20th?
I will.
I know that, thank you, Alderman. I know your opposition to this is not just based on this amendment, and there's been lots of points, but I am curious, thinking in terms of making potentially making the bill equitable in your view, if we were to have an amendment that was outlined by the Alderwoman from the 1st, where we have 3 nominations from each of the 3 different geographical areas. Would this, in your view, be an equitable representation of the city?
Can you repeat that?
Well, the initial amendment, as I understood it, we're looking at Amendment Number 1 to Board Bill 44, which describes the Charter Commission for to be appointed geographically, and the designations are 3 geographical areas, A, B, and C, and the D part would be to assign the remaining 3 in a whatever is deemed fair, or to represent diversity and perspectives without really stating how that would be done. The amendment proposed by the Alderwoman from the 1st last week identified these 3 geographical areas and suggested that the nominations come equally in 3 parts from those 3 different geographical areas. And my question to you, and so in that case, this would be altered to say 3, 3, and 3, and the Part D would be removed. And my question to you would be, would this geographical designation or set of nominations, which would be based geographically and not population-based, recognizing that we have seen massive population loss in North St. Louis for lots of reasons, reasons that we're all carry some responsibility for down here. But that being said, the question would be, would that be a fair representation, or one that would be equitable under your definition or your understanding of the amendment?
No, ma'am. I think the only way that this could be in any way, shape, form, or fashion equitable is if we actually say out our mouths on paper what the demographic of the city is, and say we shall have X amount of blacks, X amount of people who identify as white, X amount of people who identify as Mexican, Bosnian, whatever our genetic makeup of is the city. That's equitable, and it's right. When we're talking about changing the entire way that our city legislates itself, or the way that we govern ourselves, everybody should have a seat at the table.
I don't disagree with you, and I think that's why it's so important that these changes to the charter are not deemed by the Charter Commission. They're proposed, and every voter in the city of St. Louis has a seat at the table by way of a vote when those proposed changes go before the general public following the Charter Commission. I think if we were to try and provide a seat at the Charter Commission table for every demographic that lives here in the city, I would argue that that commission would have to be tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people, depending on how people define themselves. There are so many designations and ways in which people can self-define that it would be nearly impossible to try and create a complete table of fair representation when we're talking about not only age demographics, sexual orientation, geographically where you live, race, religion, affiliation, et cetera. There would be so many designations that it would be nearly impossible to quantify. And of course,
Why is that?
Because we have because we have so many different types of people living here that identify in so many, perhaps even, I would say, an infinite number of ways that each person at the end of the day could represent their own unique identity. And in that case, it would be nearly impossible to set a Charter Commission table that would be fairly representative. That being said, that is one of the reasons why I'm so appreciative that no charter change can be made by any select finite number of residents, but have to be okay by the voters in their entirety, which is a very, very powerful thing for our voters, hopefully, who are listening and choose to vote more frequently than they currently do. A very powerful part of a democracy, and one that's often overlooked. And so for that reason, I say we could not possibly have an absolutely fair seat, a Charter Commission, but looking rather for the next best case. If we are, I think this is not just an issue for this potential commission, but one that we should be thinking about for all commissions. How do we, as a representative body, mandate fair commissions in a general sense, not just for a charter commission, but for all the boards and various things that our citizens are appointed to serve on and direct various aspects of city government. And I think that's something that we should really be thinking hard about. In the meantime, I don't think the perfect should be the enemy here, specifically because whatever this commission comes up with will have to go before the full city voters at some point before being ratified. But that being said, Alderman, I welcome a conversation and continued dialogue and hopefully continued work about how we can better specify equitable boards and commissions in a general sense. That's all I have on this.
Thank you.
On this amendment at this time. Thank you.
Either way I can talk about it. But, my thing, we'll go back.
Not working, move to a mic that works. Was it?
Just real briefly, as far as the amendment, I can't support it only because I had talked to Alderwoman Tyus, and she had talked to the sponsor, and it seemed like it was going to be 3, 3, and 3, and this leaves open 3. So, I just wanted to make that statement. Why, and maybe if she's counting her votes, that might be more helpful, but it would have been better if they would have stuck with what my understanding was going to be, and that would have been 3, 3, and 3, which would have made sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Madam President, members of the board, I took down some of the notes from the Alderwoman from the 8th, and I almost want to laugh. We withstood. She talked about how great the Board of Freeholders Commission was. I was the one leading it and not moving, no matter what was offered to me. I was the one did not move and made sure that we stayed together and tried to make sure people knew what was going on. And so if she thought that was good, then you ought to follow leadership sometime. That was me. Thank you for the compliment, because that's what I was doing. I heard her talk about, asked the Alderman from the 3rd on her amendment, if we didn't trust the aldermen that are going to be here. Let me answer just what he said. No, I do not. Because if it was trustworthy, I would be the president of the board. Because I had my whole ward moved, which didn't lose population, which voted the top of the ticket more than anybody in the city. The 20th ward was the highest voting Democratic ward and one of the highest 3 wards. And we had, in 2001, we had all-white members of the Board of Aldermen got together and voted to dismantle that. So do I trust the members of the board? No, I do not, especially the new ones that we don't know. Let's talk about what has happened to our board in the last few months while we have a new president. Do we trust the members of the board? No. Have they been fair and equitable? No. I get my rear end kicked from both sides. I got it kicked from the white people who all said, and Francis Lay is known to say this, well, Sharon just wouldn't cut a deal, because I don't have to cut a deal about me voting. So I never, ever moved from what my position was. The alderman from the 3rd ward said, we've never had 14. In 2001, we were supposed to have 14 black aldermen. Instead of going down to 13, we were supposed to have 14 actual black wards that would have been 50% and 50%. In fact, we went down to 13%. It took the former president of the Board of Aldermen many years before he said, I was wrong, I didn't know. I don't believe that he did know that. And so the more I went over him and talked to him about it, he said he became appalled. So then I get here, and I'm upset with Alderman, the president, because he has tore up the highest voting ward in the city. We get this new group of progressives that come in. They talk about being for fairness and things, but they don't know about restorative justice. You can't be fair if you don't restore what was stolen. If a little old lady gets hit on the head and you watch her get hit on the head and somebody steals her purse, you don't then just step over it and say, how are we going to divide this? You put that back. If you don't put it back, that's not restorative justice. That's you being part of the gang and mob mentality. And that's what happens here, okay? So, yeah, this has been unfair. That's what I hear from the Alderwoman from the 8th. Oh, yeah, that's been unfair. But, yeah, you guys don't have the population. And, yeah, it's because you've been suppressed and depressed and people have not built anything in your wards and tore things down and let all these things happen. But let me tell you how to fix it. Never, ever do I hear that I know how to fix it myself. I built things when everybody said you couldn't. I built grocery stores. I built we were going to build a hardware store till this mayor has been sitting on it. I built schools, banks, financial institutions. When you come to my ward, people say, how did that happen? That happened because my husband and I had the actual knowledge to be able to do that. So then the Alderwoman from the 8th says, well, this wasn't even in here. It wasn't in here because you didn't think about it because you didn't care. I cared. So then when I care about inclusion, then you come and you say, okay, then the next thing I know, you're coming with thoughts and prayers, intent and purpose, thoughts and prayers. Whenever somebody gets killed, the gun people say thoughts and prayers. Whenever there's racism and discrimination and left out, now we got intent and purpose. No, there is no good intent and purpose. There is a way to make sure that you do it. Even then, people break the law and don't do it, but at least it's in the law to say, we intend for it to be fair. I did not ever hear the Alderwoman from the 8th say that I was not telling the truth when I said that the former Mayor Slay and then Cruzen, although I will give the the former Mayor Cruzen, the more I got on her, she would change some. And that's because she had people from my ward who were her directors, and they would get on her and say, hey, but Sharon is right. You need to be listening to this. And so she had some of my friends who I didn't have anything with her appointing them, but they would tell her the truth, not what she wanted to hear. Unfortunately, maybe Mayor Jones and maybe the Alderman from the 8th thinks that they can fix what was part of something that was broken, and they don't trust me to know what's better for me. I know that if you have left me out for 20 years, you have not put me on boards and commissions, and I'm not talking about me personally, for 20 years, that to say to have 3, 3, and 3, then you start talking about, well, you don't have the same numbers. That's because you always come up for a reason, and a reason for not sticking to what was in the best interest of the community. Yes, ma'am.
If I may interject, I think the Alderwoman from the 8th is ready to withdraw her amendment and introduce one that meets your specifications.
All right, then be quiet. I know how to do that. I take a victory, okay? Thank you. No, you did it. You did your work.
Right, Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to withdraw my amendment number 1 to Board Bill 44 Committee Substitute.
Would the Alderman from the 9th withdraw his second?
Sure. That's fine.
Alderman from the 9th, would you withdraw your second so we can withdraw the amendment?
Sure, I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, and then Alderwoman from the 8th, you withdraw your motion? Okay. Right, and who am I recognizing on the amendment? Alderwoman from the 20th?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like I have on everyone's desk a new amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 44 Committee Substitute, and and with that, Madam, we just recognize there's a Scribner's error here in this amendment, so my apologies here. But amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 44, Committee Substitute.
Okay. We got it. You may proceed.
Have it. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt amendment, the new amendment number 1 to Board Bill number 44, Committee Substitute, recognizing the Scribner's error by removing the words "at least 3" from each point A, B, and at least. Sorry, excuse me. Yes, the words "at least" from the 3 subpoints because the 3 then for each of those 3 subpoints then makes the full 9.
Right.
So
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 20th. I am going to put it on the Alderwoman from the 1st. All right.
I'll remove my second so she may.
Right, Alderwoman from the 2nd, you want to? Or from the 1st, sorry, say 2nd. All right, it's been moved from the Alderwoman from the 2nd, or from the 20th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we adopt Amendment 1. Is there any discussion? Right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Isn't it great when we collaborate? Right, Alderwoman from the 1st, you are recognized.
Madam President, members of the board, I just want to thank the Alderwoman from the 20th. You showed leadership. I was complaining and moaning, and we were fighting, and you did what leaders do. You said, hey, how can we fix this? So I want to appreciate and thank you for that.
Well, right, we now have Board Bill 44, Committee Substitute as amended before us. Is there any further discussion? Alderman from the 3rd.
Y'all want me to keep it short. We'll see. Would the Alderwoman from the 8th yield for questioning?
The Alderwoman from the 8th yield for questions from the Alderman from the 3rd.
I will do my best.
You may proceed.
Can you explain to me how the commission is supposed to go about its business for the 1 year that they're into commission?
Sure. So the commission is tasked with meeting monthly. Let's see. So the commission operating framework starts on page 6, item number 3. Do you want me to read it out, or?
I want you to tell me your explanation of it. If you want to read it, that's fine. The board will get it better.
Sure. So the appointment of a 10-year charter commission will take effect on August 15th. Charter Commission shall hold its first public meeting no later than September 10th. They shall hold public meetings at least on a monthly basis and shall recommend any charter amendments to the Board of Election Commissioners within 1 year of its first public meeting. Charter Commission shall stand discharged and cease to exist within 1 year of its first public meeting. So they are, once the commission is seated, they will meet monthly. They will be publicized, they will be recorded and broadcast by STL TV the same way the rest of our meetings here are broadcast, stored on STL TV. They will be public meetings, so folks can participate in these meetings. They will take suggestions. They will work on drafting. They'll be supported by the City Councilor's office as they do their work and try to come up with any, if at all, charter amendments that may need to be made for the best functioning of the city.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, and also, so they will have officers, they'll submit amendments to the Board of Election Commissioners, and they shall make other decisions subject to a majority vote of the members of the commission. Any charter amendment must receive affirmative of 2/3 of the members, so a supermajority of members have to vote in favor of any charter amendment that will actually be submitted to the voters.
Okay. All right. Number one, the operating framework. How long have you been an alderwoman?
was elected in February of 2017, I think. No, 2018, 2018, sorry.
2018, all right. So 22. Where you plan on not being an alderwoman coming the next year, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so over the last 4 years, have you had the chance to read the entire city charter?
I've looked at a majority of it, but I have not read it cover to cover, no.
Why have you not been able to read the charter, Alderwoman?
So these jobs are putting out fires. Being an alderman is responding to things that come up day to day. You can wake up one morning and all hell has broken loose in your ward. You're trying to figure out how best to accommodate a situation that has arisen. Lots of things come up. And so it's one of those things that, I mean, as an attorney, I haven't read the Constitution cover to cover. As an attorney, I haven't read the Missouri State Constitution cover to cover. You seek out the resources that you need when situations arise. So no, I have not, I haven't sat down and read it charter to charter.
So in 4 years, and that's based on, once again, just you having other automatic things to do, correct?
Yeah, that's part of it.
And that's outside of your personal life as well? And well, you have a personal life, and then you got automatic life. So outside of automatic life, just in your personal life, and I'm just, because, and I'll tell you why I'm asking that in particular, because the general public aren't hired as aldermen. So most of their time is personal. So I'm just,
Well,
asking.
they also have jobs too. I mean, they have things that, like
exactly.
the general public also
so that's what
works.
I wasn't trying to
Sure.
no, nothing like that. Just wanted to just say, Jack, so in these people's personal time, which would be when they would be commissioned, that's when they would spend most of the time kind of doing the city's work, right?
I'm sorry. I don't know if, there are probably citizens who don't work for the city government who have read the charter cover to cover. I can't speak to that.
Gotcha. Okay. So for 4 years, you haven't had the chance, just as a person who is hired by the city to legislate and know the charter, to legislate within the powers in which the charter gives you, right? So this commission is supposed to hold public meetings on at least a monthly basis, which would mean that during that month, they probably would be kind of talking about different things to present to the general public before that meeting, right?
Probably.
So is there a specified time in which the commission itself is meeting before they have that general public meeting? Or is this right here in A the only meetings that we're requiring them to go to? So if every single month they go from this meeting, they don't meet again, and then they meet the next month, is that how they're supposed to go? Or are they meeting in between that 1 month? Are they only meeting, what are their requirements?
I mean, so they can meet more often than that, but Section F says that all meetings shall be open public meetings when a quorum is present. So if they get together, if we get together and there's a quorum of a committee or a quorum of the whole of the Board of Aldermen and we're discussing business, then that is now a sunshineable government meeting.
Got you. So if it's not 9 of them and it's just 8 of them and they don't have whatever the quorum is, or 3 of them, 4 of them, they don't really have to disclose that to the public, that's not a public meeting, right?
If less than half, more than half constitutes quorum the same way that it does for all public institutions.
Okay. So I guess at minimum, they're supposed to meet, I guess, with this language, 12 times.
Right.
And from meeting to meeting, like we're discussing today, they won't talk again possibly until the next time that they meet publicly.
I mean, do aldermen have conversations in between public meetings? Like, we do. So I would assume kind of the same thing from these folks, that there will probably be conversations that happen in between commissioners or between commissioners and the city councilor's office as they go about trying to do their work.
Understood. And they only have 12 months to get it done, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they have only 12 months. And within that first 12 months, within, what's this, charter amendments of the Board of Election Commissioners within 1 year of its first public meeting. The Charter Commission shall stand discharged and cease to exist within 1 year of its first public meeting. So, which means within that 1 year, they have to be done with the business of the city and cease to exist.
Correct.
So that's 12 months, correct?
We've established that, yeah.
All right, once again, so, as we continue to go through this, we get to in order to fulfill this duty, the Charter Commission shall solicit input from the public and experts, publish a draft, set of proposed charter amendments not more than 10 months into its term, and hold at least one public hearing before and after the publication of the draft of proposed charter amendments. So they don't really have 12 months to educate the public per this to some degree. If within 10 months, that 1 year they have to be, cease to exist, and a public draft of the proposed charter amendments not more than 10 months into its term, right? So no more than 10 months into when they start, they have to propose a draft. So technically, from the date of start, they only have 10 months, which is 10 public meetings to some degree before proposing a draft to the general public, which means they have to hurry up and push this out in 10 months. They have to have some sort of proposed legislation, if they come up with something, to go to the general public.
Right. So that the public has an opportunity to weigh in before anything would be finalized and sent to the ballot.
Mm-hmm. And the draft of proposed charter amendments shall be made public no less than 2 weeks prior to the public hearing.
Yep.
Okay. So no less than 2 weeks prior, then I guess the public hearing that we're possibly having about this particular charter amendment, we're giving the public, I say for instance, if this happens 2 months into it, but once again, we only are giving the public about 8 months to 10 months to get the information from this brand-new commission that's set up, correct?
So it's more about getting information to the commission in that 10 months. So it's more about the public or city employees or departments to come to the commission within that first 10 months to say, hey, here are the things that we want to see changed. The commission can take that information, can decide something to do with it. So and then at that 10 months, once they have a proposed change, a proposed amendment of some kind, if they have any, then we make sure that there's at least 2 weeks for the general public to circulate that information, to then come to a public meeting. So we're not just, calling a meeting on a Friday for a Monday, but making sure that people have an opportunity to engage with it before public testimony. Then they can go back and finalize that draft before it goes to the voters. And when the timeline on this is so it would be submitted to the Board of Elections in August for a November ballot. So then you would have from August, September, October to November to then whatever is proposed and submitted to the Board of Elections, and you've got those 3.5 months to educate, to go and talk to people, and they can encounter the information, they can decide whether or not they want to vote for it.
Okay, so that's possible for you to have all those months, but under this actual legislation, if we go the maximum amount, you have up to 10 months to propose a charter change. So on that 10th month, right, the exact 10th month, you can have meetings all the way up into that particular point and put out whatever you'd like to put out as the Charter Commission, correct? It doesn't have to necessarily be what it is that people spoke about. You're supposed to take public input and things like that, but the public really doesn't have to know except for that deadline, which would be the 10th. I mean, that 10 month. You can't go over 10 months, right?
Yeah.
So at that 10th month, if someone says, hey, on the exact last day of the 10th month, this is the time where we're going to put out this information for the general public, which we only have 2 months to educate after we publicize this amendment. There are only 2 months left, correct? 60 days that we have under Board Bill 44. The general public could potentially have only 60 days to react to a charter amendment, correct?
Not really, because the 10 months is the controlling on the draft. So if they try to propose something completely differently at the end, then they're not following the charter amendment that put them into place. So if they say at month 10, they propose, we're going to change the word he to they, and then they come back and they say, actually, we're going to eliminate the refuse department, right? Then that's not true to the enabling legislation that they have proposed a draft, and that's not a draft, right? That's not real. So you're going to see what is going to be proposed at month 10, and then any sorts of minor tweaks that need to happen, or if they get feedback to say, hey, no, there's actually no support for this type of amendment, then they pull it back, right? But to change the entire nature of the amendment would not be in the spirit of the legislation.
Understood, but they can propose something at month 10 that the general public has not seen at all, correct? Just at month 10, I'm just saying yes or no.
If they've never prepared a document about it that has been a part of their public meetings as they've moved through the process, then sure. But there are members of this commission that are the president of the Board of Aldermen, the chair of the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, the comptroller, the mayor, the city councilor that are ex officio members. So you're going to have other people that are a part of this process that are there to ensure the best interest of the departments, the best interest of the city, and the transparency. So if you're suggesting that there could be some sort of conspiracy to hide things until month 10, I just don't see that playing out that way.
Well, it's not about what you see. It comes down to whether or not this legislation allows for it. We don't see a lot of things coming our way. But within this legislation, so you're talking about it from a humanistic standpoint, not an individual who is devious in nature or devious in behavior, which you won't really truly know unless you are seeing that person do devious things and then act. So this allows for that to happen, though. You can say that morally it's bad, or morally we don't expect individuals from the Board of Aldermen to make decisions like that potentially be harmful, but through this legislation, it does allow for individuals to wait to the very last month, which will be the 10th month. And it says it. I know what you're speaking of. There's a commission. You got these, the Charter Commission with 6 voting ex officio members. That's there, of course. I'm not speaking about those. I'm speaking about the general public's knowledge at the 10th month, which we have the ability through this board bill to only put that information out on the 10th month, correct? Is it not right here? And
That is possible. That is possible that they could do. So, Alderman,
I'm just getting to a point.
But part of the situation here is that I don't know that I can answer to a line by line question here.
You don't have to answer to a line by line. What I'm getting to is
discuss the bill.
I am discussing the bill because it's right here. The Charter Commission mandates.
And I am saying we've had 4 committee hearings to talk about this. I am happy to entertain real questions here, but
so you can call this. You can say this isn't a real question based on your idea of privilege, and we'll talk that. And I'm going to tell you why. You're speaking of it. You're speaking of this from an individual standpoint of your idea of your community already knowing what's going on. Mine does not, and it's not because we didn't educate them. It's because you didn't. It's because you didn't come out here to the general public and say, we're trying to make a charter change. You didn't get on the news. You didn't send out a press release. You sent out press releases about not you, but press releases are sent out about tires being in alleys and all kind of other things. And we're talking about changing the charter. And you have not, even in your own community, made a specific meeting just about changing the charter and having a commission to do so. So with that being said, this is a real question. And I'll continue my line of questioning because it is exactly about the board bill. Nobody else has asked you to read directly from the board bill.
I mean, we did in committee.
Well, I'm asking you on the floor to do it because this is not committee. This is a committee of the whole. And we're going to do this. Now, the Charter Commission mandate shall be to frame charter amendments for the submission of the qualified voters. In order to fulfill this duty, the Charter Commission shall solicit input from the public and from experts, publish a draft of set proposed charter amendments not more than 10 months into its term, not more, which means that you can go right up to that 10-month term and say, now we're proposing a draft, and hold at least one, listen to it, one public hearing before and after the publication of that draft. Proposed charter amendment. Now, if that ain't a slap in the face of the people, what is? Telling them that they got one meeting before and after we propose a charter change, and if someone actually does wait to the 9th hour, you only got 2 meetings because the charter commission is supposed to end at 12. That's why you got one before and one after. Why? Because it gives room for 2 months. 2 months, which is the only 2 months you got, which is set up for this charter commission to have after you propose a charter amendment at the 9th hour, which will be the 10th month. You only got 2 months left, so you got 2 meetings left. So you're telling me that the general public can get out here and look at what a charter change means, read the entire charter in 2 months, and you ain't done it in 4 years? It ain't right. It is not right, Alderwoman, and what you are simply saying is that my line of questioning is not in line with what this charter is saying and what this charter amendment on this board bill proposes, and it all the way is, because you're simply leaving the voters out. You're simply saying that they have 2 months. Now, what you're hoping is that an individual will give them more time than that. But if you haven't had more time, if you need more time, if you, with all the millions of things that you have going on, you got thousands of people calling you every single year asking you for service. You don't think them people got other things to do with their lives? They're calling you saying, I got the time today. Look at this pothole. Look at these trees. They got stuff to do as well. You ain't as busy as the general public. None of us are. Because we're doing the work for the general public. We're saying that we will look out for you, be your eyes and ears, and do the things that you are not able to do throughout your daily day. You can't look at all these laws. They don't have the time to look at all of these things. This is 200 pages, some of this stuff. They're out there taking care of their children. They're going to work every day. Just like our job is to go to work for them every single day. They don't have the time within 60 days to read an entire charter that our own legislative branch has not had the time to read in 4 years. They ain't got the time. They expect us to have the time. They expect us to make the time. They expect us to ensure that the time that they pay us for is utilized in a way to where we can come and represent them and say, hey, this ain't right. And I'm going to say it because I read this whole thing. This ain't right, and it ain't for my people. It ain't for a whole lot of white people that's in my ward that look just like, not look just like me, but feel what it is that I feel. They hear them gunshots just like I do. They see that trash like I do. They see them mice like I do. They see them rats like I do, them raccoons, those trees that ain't been cut down, the grass that ain't been cut. They see it just like I do. And there's nothing in here that says this commission is going to change our reality. This does not give the people a fighting chance when our folks in years ain't seen adequate services. And we're giving them 2 months to make a decision on to change a charter in which we ourselves, once again, haven't even utilized the charter for our power to give them adequate services. 2 weeks. No less than 2 weeks. You're giving these people 2 weeks. There's not one bill in this entire city that's been ever proposed and passed in 2 weeks. But we're giving these people 2 weeks for a charter commission to come in, propose something, give them a few days to have a hearing, and then a whole another few days to have another hearing. This ain't right. 2 hearings is what they get. All right, we're going to keep on going. Once again, the general public, I hope you heard the last meeting, when it was brought up that the Charter Commission could actually change our ability to create a law yourselves. The most powerful right that y'all have is being able to come together as a people in this city and say, we want to propose this legislation. The whole Board of Aldermen said left, and we going right. We don't like them no more. We don't appreciate what it is that they brought forth. You have the power. This commission has the power to take the power from you all. The 300,000 of you all that live here, the 50 to 100,000 voters that are out here, your power has been diminished right now. You didn't vote for this, nor did you have a public meeting about this, nor did nobody come to your front door and knock on your door when we asked you to vote for us. Nobody knocked on your door and told you that we also are looking at giving the power away that you vote us in to yield, to ensure that your best interests are being talked about on this floor. All right, here we go. Any charter amendments framed by the commission shall take effect on the day fixed therein, if approved by the vote of 3/5 of the commission's qualified voters voting thereon at a general election held a day fixed by the commission not less than 60 days, not more than 1 year after the completion of the charter of the amendments. So, after 60 days of us creating the charter amendment, I'm sorry, not after 60 days, right after the 60 days of the 3/5 of that commission voting it in, these people can immediately present to the voters this charter, which is, that's another 30 days, I mean, what's 60 days? So that's what, 2 months, not less than 60 days. So on the 61st day, we can have an election. You give them 2 weeks, and then on the 61st day, now this is your legislation, it ain't mine. 61st day, you said, all right, y'all have been educated enough, you had 60 days, we had all of these years. Here you go, General Public, vote on this. We got it. They haven't been educated. I don't see nothing in this board bill at all that says we have some sort of a budget for the general public's education. Nothing there. Not more than 60 days and not more than 1 year after completion of the charter amendments. That's all they got. 60 days ain't enough. You've had years and hasn't read the entire charter. I talked to everybody last week. Actually, most of y'all ain't read the charter. Most of y'all, I can go down the line, but I ain't gonna do that today. But it's the truth. If you haven't had the time to read the charter, why do you think the general public had the time to read the charter? Why y'all gonna hold them to a better standard than you? That ain't fair to them. You're their elected representatives. You know what? And I'll end with this. This reminds us, once again, of this exact bill. This is what they like to do. General public, everybody that's out there, this is what? A few months before the general election and y'all getting this information? How y'all feel about that? If this can shove down your throat right now when you don't even know what it is, your alderwoman, the one who has represented you for years, ain't even had a meeting about just this, to every single person on the north side of St. Louis, every person on the west side of St. Louis, south side, central west end, wherever you are, right now, they're fighting to ensure that they take your city from you. And I'm going to tell you this, because if it wasn't the truth, let me tell you what we do in these board bills right quick. We wouldn't have it in the whereas clauses. In the whereas clause. Whereas the city is empowered by the Missouri Constitutional Article, what is it, 6? To amend or revise its charter. Whereas the city of St. Louis established a commission to reform the charter since 1945, and recent attempts to form a board of freeholders have not been successful. Boy, if y'all ain't reading this, and I know y'all haven't had the chance to read it because it's our job, I'm reading it to you right now. Y'all take the chance, take the time to look at what the board of freeholders are. Everybody take the time to read who the board of freeholders are. That's the entity that's going to break your city down. That's the entity that's going to take this city from us right now. You go out in the county and you listen to what they're talking about better together. They talking about merging the city and county, and it's right here in this board bill. There's no reason to ever mention the board of freeholders if you ain't talking about merging the city and county. Why would you bring them up? The only reason for the board of freeholders is to look into merging the city and county. Look, this is war. Y'all better know it. To every single one of my people out there, y'all houses finna go through the roof in value. You better know that. You better know they want that north side back. You better know we got 3,200 square foot houses that's valued at $70,000. When it go up, it's going up. And we going up with it. Y'all better know they want y'all homes. They want everything y'all got. They calling y'all houses right now, telling you to sell. And you better know them inspectors coming too. They ain't coming knocking at your door. They coming with that paperwork, y'all. They gonna come black and white, just like this is black and white telling you the board of freeholders is on its way. They coming to take your houses, and this is the truth. This is where it starts at, legislation like this, where you don't have no power. where they give the power to a few. See, it's the reason why we don't want to really talk demographics. Truth. Let it be equitable around this joint. Let us see what 14 black aldermen look like, 14 white aldermen look like, or 13 blacks, 13 whites, and 2 others. Let's play ball around her. But y'all don't want to play ball. Everybody want to keep it the way that it's been all these years. You want to keep on going the way that things are going because it's lucrative for y'all. And y'all know who I'm talking about is lucrative for. It ain't lucrative for my people. That's why we out here stealing. That's why we out here doing everything we can to survive. You think we murdering each other because we feel like it? You think we out here breaking in people's houses because it feel good? No, we looking for food. We're looking for something to sell. We're looking for somewhere to go. We're looking for direction. And from our recollection, the city ain't never gave us none. It ain't no plan for the north side of St. Louis, and still ain't. Ain't never been one. But to destruct it, but to bring it down to its knees, but to break us down. Like you're doing right now. You done broke down a board of aldermen. Good job. Mr. Man that don't look like me. You did amazing. And our people are just sucking it up. We believe that this is better government. Reducing the amount of representation you have is better for us. We can get the grass cut now with 28. What you think we finna do with 14? That's why they trying to break it down. They say, oh no, we gonna break it down to 14. We need a commission out here. We need a few more people to help regulate these board of aldermen folks because all of them, they high on corruption. We ain't. These are lies. This has not been given its full look at by the community. We haven't went through this page by page. We haven't looked at what the ramifications of this is, but I'm telling you, it's less representation. That's what we're facing right now. We've never had equity in this Board of Aldermen, and that is what's going to happen inside of this commission because it's no different than the genetic or the demographic makeup of the Board of Aldermen as it sits right now, just like when we reduce. There's nothing inside of that board bill that everybody voted for that said there shall be an equitable demographic in this city. We're going to be looking at about 9 whites and about 4 blacks. That's what we got. 5 blacks. This ain't right, and it ain't never gonna be right. And if we start looking at these pieces of legislation as being our step stool into better government, better legislation, and we don't even have the demographic, I mean, sorry about that. God, I done read through this thing. You said right before I got up here and started talking that the demographics is in here. I ain't seen them. I'm gonna keep on reading because I done read the whole thing. I will read it again and again. I can read the whole thing in about 2 minutes. But once again, we actually just read half the bill. If everybody gets to page 8, it's over. Board bill's over. We read the majority of it standing up here on the floor. I bet none of y'all heard one thing about race. Oh, it's quiet, huh? Nobody heard one thing about color because I'm black. Undeniably black. I'm chocolate, and I appreciate my chocolate skin. I am not a white man. I'm not a red man. I'm not a green man. I'm a black man. I represent black people and white people who feel the way that I feel, not look the way that I feel. They feel how I feel. We feel the problems in our communities. We are hurting. We all feel the same way no matter how we look, and we are underrepresented. No matter how we twist it or turn it. This ain't no different than the way this board is set up. You're giving my people, the individuals who don't have access to internet all the time. Our source of news is the news. Y'all got good internet. Y'all see my internet cracking up all the time. What you think? You think I like that? No, I don't like it. I can't do nothing about it. I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm on the actual network. And don't say my network's crap because it's not. Some of y'all got the same network. So with that being said, sometimes I got to drive around the corner just to get internet. And I'm part of the government. We don't have it the way that other neighborhoods have it. We haven't seen what equity look like in the city. That's why the mayor is busting her butt to get as many dollars into a certain particular parts of town that's never been there as quick as she can. Because ain't nothing ever been there. We've been begging for years just to get potholes filled up. We got year-old potholes. We got trees that's been there on CSB for 5 years. People getting hit with some of this stuff. It's ridiculous. And this board bill addresses none of our issues or problems. Not a one. The board will still be inequitable. The commission is still inequitable. There ain't nothing in here, like my colleague said. We got race in here. We got all those different things. How are we going to propose an amendment? Talk about geographical things and then say there are demographics within the board bill and we all stand in here with it. Now I'm going to challenge everybody in this room. Every single alderman is what? I hope we got more than a corner. We got about 25 of y'all left today. We're going to keep it true. If any one of y'all, any alderman in here can stand up and say where you see this board bill broken down by commission demographically, please stand up and do so. And I'm going to tell you ain't, because most of y'all don't see it. It ain't there. You can read it all day. Look for it. I challenge anybody. We'll wait 10 seconds. All right, we'll cut it short. Nobody's going to stand up. You want to know why? Because it's not there. It ain't meant to be there. This ain't meant for the general public to have equitability. It's meant for a few. And I probably go into that few is, but I'm not. Because we got people out there that don't look like me who know this ain't right. Everything ain't black and white. It's right and wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. We are not giving the general public the time that they need to ensure that they have the time to research, read, and educate each other before we make changes to their livelihoods. We have not helped them the way that they adequately feel helped. We're not giving them the tools that they need to ensure that they can adequately be educated to make the best decisions at the ballot box. And then we're giving them 2 months after we've made decisions, and then 60 days after that to go and vote on it. This ain't right, and every single person in this room has held themselves to a different standard and each other. You was under oath, every one of y'all, saying that you're going to have multiple hearings for these people, that you're going to follow the Board of Aldermen rules. You follow the rules in ensuring that people have all the adequate time that they need to educate themselves. Why shouldn't we make the general public follow the same rules that they hold us to and ensure that they also have enough time to educate themselves? This ain't fair to them. And this legislation is not the way you proposed it to be or said it was about an hour ago when we were talking about it. If you go back and look at it, you said that there were provisions in here for ethnicity, for demographics. I just asked you and everybody else to stand up on it, and nobody did. So if you're not standing up on what somebody else standing up is telling you right in your face is a bold-faced lie, it is you can't make it up. It's not here. It's not here. It's not here. And everything that you all are getting ready to vote on and say yes to that ain't here, y'all gonna lie to y'all residents and agree with somebody who said it is. Say once again, it's the time the public paying attention to you. We'll see how that goes. You need to respect the general public. Believe these people are smart and they have the ability to read, but you got to give them enough time to, because they got lives. They got daughters, they got sons, they got bills to pay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th. Woman from the 8th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We've had a lot of discussion today. We've had some good collaboration, some good movement. I am excited about this. I'm excited about talking with our voters more about what this process means, about how to engage with it, about the ways that we can work to improve the functions of the city. This is something that any good functioning city should undertake. Charter reform is something that is structural, that can work to make our delivery of services better. It can work to make our city function more smoothly for the rest of us. And I would love to work with you all as this comes forward. I appreciate the discussion today. Anyway, all of this is set out in the bill. The process is in the bill for how you would engage with this throughout the process of the Charter Commission, the ways that drafts would be presented. All of this is, as always, subject to the vote of the people. And I would encourage each of us to be having these conversations with our communities as we're moving forward, and as folks are looking for people who are running for office to ask questions about what people think here and what their perspectives are. So with that, Madam President, I close. I would appreciate your favorable consideration of Board Bill 44 Committee Substitute as amended.
It has been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we perfect Board Bill number 44 Committee Substitute as amended. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Pass.
Alderman Bosley. No. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. I'm sorry. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Present.
Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Boyd. 18 aye votes, 3 no votes, and 3 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th to perfect Board Bill number 44 Committee Substitute as amended.
That's the extent of board bills for perfection.
Third reading consent calendar. By the request of the Alderperson from the 16th, please put Board Bill 77 on the regular third reading calendar.
So noted. Board Bill 117, 121, 123, 125, 129, 118, and 128.
Alderman from the 25th, you're recognized on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt the third reading consent calendar.
Second.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 25th, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th, that we adopt the third reading consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green. Alderman Page. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 25th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading, report of engrossment, and final passage.
Board Bill 116, Committee Sub as amended, introduced by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderman Cone, Alderman Gunther, Alderwoman Peel, Alderman Stevens, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Todd, Alderwoman Walker, Alderman Page, and Alderwoman Rice. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment appropriating a portion of funds received under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, authorizing certain expenditures of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend the funds to the extent received containing the severability clause and containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 26th, you're recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 116, Committee Substitute as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 116 Committee Sub as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 26th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 116 Committee Substitute as amended. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the committee. I wonder if you all are getting tired of me talking about this bill, because that's what you do when you believe in something, you advocate for something. So, I cannot stop speaking about the 11 apportionments in this bill, right? I know people are pulling and picking it apart, but if we need to, we can go through each one and talk about how they will directly impact and directly meet needs for not even our youngest, not just our youngest rather, but to our elders, from our infants to our elders. I've been saying that when I go out and speak in the community. When you look at these allocations and the departments they're going in, the work they're already doing, and the way that this is going to build capacity in those departments, it's hard to not get excited, right? So with that, I will definitely open it up for discussion. I'll be ready for questions. But again, I'm hoping for my colleagues' continued support of Board Bill 116 Committee Sub as amended.
Alderman from the 16th, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Will the Alderman from the 26th please yield?
Yes.
Would the Alderwoman from the 26th yield to questions from the Alderman from the 16th?
Absolutely.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I appreciate it. Recently, Jobs for Justice just came out with the survey that they sent for the initial direct cash assistance. Did you take a look at that? And did you note that 33% of the folks did either an ATM withdrawal or transferred it to another account, which was sort of the top line of uses of that? Okay. So there is really no way to track that after the fact, right? Other than followed up in a survey, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And believing them.
Okay. Alderwoman, do you think that there should be strong advocacy for home ownership when it comes to growing wealth and bridging what is the wealth gap that exists in our city?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, Alderwoman. That's all the questions I have. You know, I came to a realization the other night that as an adult, not everyone may share the same opinion as me. But I think we can all get together that it's this board's work to figure out how we can, if we really say we want to bridge the wealth divide that exists, and I think we can all agree that home ownership is is probably the lead blocker in growing wealth. It is the most important asset for most people who become home buyers, and really the financial stability in growing wealth. That being said, I think $5 million could go a long way to solidifying home ownership. $25,000 could go to 200 households, potentially, in modest home values, and create that first-time home experience for many, many households. I also realize that 96% of this bill is in good shape. I think the uses here are great. Federally qualified health centers, $13 million. Wish there could be more. Early childhood education, $2 million. I wish there could be more. There are youth and juvenile diversion programming, also darn good use. I wish there could be more. These are the things that I've struggled with and toiled in reviewing this, but you can't be 100% happy. So knowing that I wish that the $5 million for the direct cash assistance could have been backed out of this bill, it is not. But I will rise in support overall of Board Bill 116 because $47 million is going to what I believe are very good causes and will help people in a great deal. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, I seem to pick one. Okay, here we go. So my problem with this, I would like to have seen that backed out, the $5 million or the $500. It's not, but there's, according to the last census, 57,400 people in the poverty level that would qualify for this $500. Who's going to win the lottery? Was they going to have like a drawing? So we're going to do 500 and we don't worry about the other 57 or 56,900? I mean, I'm a little bit whatever. Yeah, well, we're going to vote for this because when you throw a whole bunch of stuff into one bill that you don't want to vote against stuff, you might as well throw something in that's not. But I'm still trying to figure out where the last $500 went to. And then we throw this in. We do this all the time. We throw something in a bill that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense into a bill with a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, we're all going to vote for this because it's going to cut other good things. But I just think when you got the last census showing we have 57,400 families in the city of St. Louis in the poverty, under poverty, how you're going to pick the 500. And it's not a question, it's a statement.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 26th, you're recognized to close.
Oh, you guys made it a little easier than I thought it was going to be today. So I'll just speak to a couple of things quickly. Then I don't believe that you just vote for something like this just because you have to. The work that can be done in this kind of legislation is something that you believe in, especially as a leader. And the numbers that have been quoted are the reason why we have this kind of funding in place for us to be able to lead through data and make these kind of decisions to empower these departments to do that. When you're talking about housing and first-time home buying, even if you just given a first-time home buyer payment, how do you build up the capacity for that home buyer to first qualify for that, then keep it? That's one thing. Second of all, there's money in here for that. I would argue that housing stabilization, the $1 million that's in here for senior services, when I know in my area, again, $1 million in here for senior services in the West End, they're generational homes, right? So we have grandparents raising grandkids, or grandparents that are trying to hold on to their homes that their younger and next generations might not want to keep up with. This gives them money to build and help and keep and stabilize their homes. These different departments are helping, again, everyone from our infants to our seniors. With any program, you know, I talked about comparison when I reached out to you all. When you talk about comparison, that breeds division and that breeds people to get confused about things. There is no program on earth that services everybody that qualifies for it, or everybody that applies for it. None. All the way down to the food lines. When we have food lines that we have to say, hey, we got to cut it off right here. So that means you don't do anything for anybody, or you don't believe in anything for anybody. I think that in some ways those are hard issues. And if you believe in helping for somebody else and making it applicable for somebody else, that even if they don't get that part of the bill, we know that they can be impacted by the money that's going to the federally qualified health centers. That was a specific ask. We know that what our Department of Health does for our city, and we know what our Department of Human Services does for our city. We know what our St. Louis Agency on Aging does for our city. We know how these departments, the microtrans, and how they already transport seniors in their communities, and now this will build and expand on that. So again, I was ready to fight like I am every other day, but if, you know, it is to not get emotional and to keep it, you know, how we've been working today. I'm excited. I think we all just full from how we just came together on other bills and other legislation. I'm asking that you, again, third read and finally pass Board Bill 116 Committee Sub as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 26th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 116, Committee Substitute as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. No, until I get reports back how the money is spent. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Present. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Aye. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Aye. Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Yes.
Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel.
Aye.
Alderman Todd.
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Grass.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Coder. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. 21 aye votes. 1 no vote. 1 abstain. And 1 present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 26th to third read and finally pass Board Bill number 116, Committee Substitute as amended. Report of engrossment.
I'm sorry, I still have one more.
Oh, sorry, 77 we moved over.
Yes, ma'am. Board Bill 77, introduced by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance to protect the public health, safety, and welfare by prohibiting the use of alleys by operators of motor vehicles for drive-through traffic in the following neighborhoods: Kingsway East, Kingsway West, Penrose, Mark Twain, requiring the posting of those allowed to use to use of the alley contain a penalty clause and an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you are recognized in the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 77.
Madam President, members of the board, I move to third read and finally pass Board Bill 77.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 77. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Several years ago, I passed a full board bill that was vetoed by the former Mayor Slay on his way out, had 23 votes. So I contained this to my own ward. This is to be able to close off alleys instead of coming into this board with different board bills. This is to be able to close alleys at one end because we have a dumping problem in the city of St. Louis. And a lot of my community is up against neighborhood highways. And unfortunately, people get off the highway, they dump. Everybody thinks cameras work. Cameras work limitedly because what happens is people, we all are wearing masks now, and we cover up, they cover up their vehicles, identification license plates, and so they dump and they dump and they dump. And the city spends millions and millions of dollars cleaning up the dumping, and it's right back there the next day. And unfortunately, my neighborhoods are just inundated with it. It is not the people who live in the community. We have always had pristine, clean alleys. And so it seems like the city kind of gives up on it because on top of that, the city is not picking up bulk because they're so, the mayoral administration is all about, we're going to do recycling, and bulk is building up. And once bulk starts to build up in your community, then there is more and more and more. And the answer is not to say, well, those people over there, that's all right. They can just put up with that. So what we did is we got together and we worked on a ordinance or a board bill that would allow me to close the alleys. Actually, there are alleys all across the city that have either both ends or one. In fact, if you go over into the 17th Ward next to St. Louis University off of Oakland and drive down there, there's an alley that's closed between St. Louis University and I think the next street, I don't know what the next street is, but if you go around to Berthold, you can come in. And that's what we intend to do. What we found in the alleys that are cut off and closed at one end, we don't have dumping because the people don't want to go down there and then have to try to back out. So, but there's really no reason for anybody to be in your alleys. Alleys are not required. Alleys were put to serve the people who property abut that alley. And you can build a whole division. I have parts of my community that do not have alleys because they just built houses built up to the back like that. But when you have an alley, that becomes a constant thing. I live one house from Kings Highway. Now, they pretty much don't dump in my alley except for at that first dumpster. And my husband and I are always going out there and picking that up. Now, there are some people who get tired of it and say, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to lose population. This is meant to test it in several locations around my community to test and see how that works. If it works, we'll start doing more, much as we did with speed humps, street closings, and other things. But I took pictures, and I'm sorry, because I just asked Tracy if I could put it on the drive, but she said we couldn't. But I will email it all to you because I've taken pictures over in the Central West End where they have the big fancy gates. They have it at both ends, and so I did check with the street department because they have our dumpsters in those alleys, and what they do is they put what's called a mule, which opens a gate, and then either you can have a code or a card, and people can get in and out. I met with my constituents about what did they think about closing alleys, and they were all for it. And they said they would even, because we talked about how do we maintain these things. Because oftentimes we put things in a community, like we put up these decorative lights and things, and then when people hit them, we don't have a way to pay for them except for out of our ward capital funds, and they can cost $10,000 and $20,000. So we came up with, we would each put in a certain amount of money every month to pay for if you lose a card or whatever like that, whatever that would take. And we also decided that we would post that alley because there's really no reason except for police officers, ambulance, utility people, and those kind of people to be in the alley. There is no reason for people out in the county to come strolling through my alley. If you are looking to buy a house, then you have permission. Permission granted gives you the right to be in the alley. But that would be because you are trying to buy it and you've talked to the owner and they are letting you see that property. It will not be for everybody to come down the alleys. We also have a lot of people who like to come down the alleys and go through the dumpsters, and they pull stuff out and just leave it. In our neighborhood, we actually now, just anything that we think is salvageable or that they can use, we put it on the fence in a bag so that they don't have to go through the dumpsters. But there are some alleys in the city of St. Louis that are so horrible. That's just awful, and we cannot continue to go behind and clean up this dumping and say we're going to keep working on this. But in the meantime, I have a lady who lives right behind Sherman Park, and they dump on the Street Academy. And when she calls, and they come on the weekend, and they take their time and come back 2 or 3 times, because by the time the police get there, it's too late. So it might be 3, 4 hours later. So we're looking to put tests up around the neighborhoods where there's the most dumping to see if that ends it. And if it does, we're going to start doing more and more of that just to stop the dumping in the places that we need it.
Alderman from the 16th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Will the Alderman from the 1st please yield for question?
The Alderwoman from the 1st yield for questioning by the Alderman from the 16th.
Yes, I will.
May proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Alderwoman. This is a trespassing ordinance violation, is it not? I mean, if it becomes private for the citizens and folks who operate it, they would be in violation under Section 5 of what gathers as trespassing, right, in their motor vehicle?
It's a trespassing if you are also just walking down there, going through, looking to break into houses and things like that. I'm sorry, garages.
Got it.
Which we had a 400% increase when Covenant House moved next door to us.
Great. So let me ask you a question, Alderwoman, because I think the spirit and the intent of this, I'm 100% behind regarding the illegal dumping issue. As you all know, that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart that I think I want to combat and penalize folks for. So if a motorist comes through with a truck down what will be a private alley, effectively, and they illegally dump, in your opinion, would they be in violation of this ordinance plus any illegal dumping ordinance?
They can be either or both.
So there would be 2 violations that the municipal court could, in fact, find them guilty.
Exactly. You can
No
have
further
more
questions.
than one.
Thank you.
You can have more than one. When you try to break in, oh, you don't want anything? You love that, I guess. I'm not trying, so I don't know if I like that he likes that well. So I'm sorry.
Is there any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized to close.
Thank you. I want to say I'm not trying to, it wasn't to lock people up or to give them multiple violations. And now I'm going to go look at this and see if I need to pull it back in some. But that's who I am, okay? But right now, I need more for them not to be dumping in my alleys. If I need to come right back and put in amendment and say maybe this can't be but one or the other. I never looked at it that way, and that I don't even know if I want to pass it now. Boy. Come on. So you all can see I'm hard on me too, okay? I'm probably harder on me than I am other people, if you all would know that. So I'm going to put this on the informal calendar because I'm uncomfortable with this, and so I want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to just lock people up. I'm trying to make them stop coming through the alley, and so I'm going to look at that, and I can change some language pretty easy. And I'm going to also move that it be put back to the perfection calendar so that I can, when we come back here, change the language.
Okay, we would need to suspend the rules to
Okay,
move
but
it
first
back.
I'm just going to, okay, so I'm going to withdraw my motion to pass the bill first, okay?
Okay.
And somebody second it.
Alderman from the 25th, can you
Wait a minute,
withdraw
the
your
25th
second?
seconded.
Where is he?
Shane.
Alderman from the 25th.
I removed my second.
Thank you, Alderman from the 25th.
I know. Yeah, I know.
All right. Alderwoman
We
from the
never
first.
actually got to that, so I don't have to reconsider. Oh. No, you don't have to haven't voted on the prevailing. You can just move your board bills back to, you don't have to be prevailing. Prevailing is a different thing, and I'll teach you about that, okay? Madam President, members of the board, I would move to move Board Bill 77 back to the perfection informal, informal calendar, please?
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the first, seconded by the Alderman from the 12th, that we suspend the rules to move Board Bill number 77 back to the perfection calendar. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
You don't have to do reconsider, so reconsider.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Page. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Balmer. Alderman Lappy. Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Howard. Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Walker. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Gross. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. 24 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion. Madam Clerk, could you please put Board Bill 77 back on the perfection calendar, regular perfection calendar?
So noted.
Report of engrossments.
Board Bill 117, 121, 123, 125, 129, 118, 128, and 116, committee sub as amended.
With all other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix their signature hereto to the end that these may become law. already did the courtesy resolution calendar. All right, second reading of resolutions.
Resolution 128, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, President Green, and the following alderpersons: Lappy, Gunther, Cone, Rice, Narayan, Vaccaro, Stevens, Tyus, Oldenburg, Davis, Bosley, and Peel, increasing pay and benefits for all St. Louis city workers.
Alderwoman from the 13th, you're recognized on the second reading of Resolution 128.
Thank you. I move to adopt Resolution 128.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we approve Resolution number 128. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you so much. We had a great discussion in committee about this yesterday. As I said then, this resolution is about our city workers and making sure that the city of St. Louis is both able to retain and recruit city workers by offering them the benefits that they need to stay with the city. We talked a lot today about city services that we'd like to see improved as residents of the city and as legislators, and I think that this resolution aims to get at that improvement. We know that our city services will not be delivered if we do not have the city workers to carry out the tasks. So this simply makes sure that they are prioritized so that we can have all of these services met and treat our city workers as they deserve to be treated. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 24th?
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this. I think that this is a no-brainer. If we want to get more people on staff for the city and maintain the people that we have, we need better salaries for them, better benefits for them. Our city services have been suffering over the last several years. We've all seen trash pile up. We've seen trees that need trimming, roads that need repairing, so on and so forth. So this is just a no-brainer, especially at a time when we've had discussions about a raise in aldermanic salaries. I think that the two things must go with each other. We cannot give ourselves a raise without making sure that the entirety of the city is getting better pay and better benefits. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 28th.
Add my name added to this bill, this resolution.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we pass this in bank.
It's been motioned by the Alderman from the 28th, seconded by a whole lot of folks. I will say the Alderman from the 11th will have the second. That we make this in bank. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 13th, you're recognized to close.
Thank you. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 13th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we pass resolution number 128. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Wednesday, December 14th, 2022, Streets will have a meeting at 10 a.m. via webinar. Public Safety will have a meeting at 1 p.m. via webinar. Thursday, December 15th, 2022, HUD will have a meeting at 9 a.m. Special Committee on the Transition to 14 Wards will have a meeting at 11 a.m. Ways and Means will have a meeting at 6 p.m., all via webinar. That is the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman for the 1st.
To the board, I'd like to give a report from the Streets Committee about some things that came out Wednesday, and which is making us have to have another meeting. I learned, and the Streets Committee learned from testimony from Kent Flakes and from Richard Bradley. Kent Flakes is the Commissioner of Streets, and Richard Bradley is the Director of Board of Public Service. We learned that $7.6 million that was for arterial street paving and street calming and curbs and median repair and sprinklers and all of this. And also the ARPA, that came from capital half-cent surplus funds. So that, and then another 8.5 million. So we're talking about 7 and 8 is 15, almost $16 million has not been used this summer, and that was for arterial street paving from Union, from Enright to Florissant, Grand from Holly Hills to Hall Street, Kings Highway from Gravois to Florissant, and Jefferson from Chippewa to Shoto. And so our question was, did you let any alderman know? Anybody who watched that? They said no. We said, why would you set the paving season, for those of you that do not know, and the alderman from the 9th is shaking his head because he was there. So it was like, why would you just do that? Why wouldn't you hold this up? Why are you doing this? With all the people that I get screaming about their cars being tore up, the paving that needs to be done, none of us, nobody on the committee, and I asked anybody else if they had been made aware of it, and they said no, they were waiting for a traffic calming bill from the mayor. I think that's very irresponsible. That's dangerous. It's, again, it's a big pot of money to be sitting on without at least having a conversation with the people who are involved, including me, who is the chair of streets, but also all these people have been waiting and asking questions and asking me what's going on and asking me to have hearings. So that is very irresponsible. We also had testimony from Kent Flakes, because the mayor's office put out that I held up the 21, 22, and 22, 23 public works money. And so being very honest, Kent Flakes, when I asked him about this, said, no, you couldn't have done that because I didn't do the budget. So, and he was under oath. So that means that the mayor's office, specifically Nancy Cross, and I don't know if the mayor was involved in it, is putting out false data. Please read the Riverfront's Time. I want you to read that. I purposely didn't bother them because I know they're so new, they don't know a lot of stuff. A lot of times I try to help them, but they're so bent on going to do it their way that they let a whole budget for a whole year go by. Then they try to put out and shop it that I did it and that I was holding it up, and that's just not true. And so then they were like, well, we tried to get her in March. And the testimony is that Bethany Williams, which many of you all in here have said to me, she will not, the director of streets will not return phone calls. And when you don't return phone calls, and when you're asking me to sponsor something, and I'm still trying to find out what happened to last year's budget. And so when I read the Riverfront Times article, in which they're saying, oh, it was a miscommunication, it was not. There's something called a chain of command or a table of organization. When Kent Flakes did not do the 21-22 budget, it was Bethany Williams, who is the director of streets, who should have said, hey, where is this? When that didn't happen, Nancy Cross should have said, hey, where is this? When that didn't happen, Jared Boyd might have said what? And ultimately, the mayor, please don't try to blame stuff on me, because it's so much stuff I've helped you with that I will tell it all. This is what you do, like Kent Flakes. Our fault. We're sorry, Alderwoman Tyus, that we lied, because they shopped a lie. And I do not let people shop lies on me, because then I will show things that you don't want me to. I don't want this war. I didn't bother you, but if you want to bring a war to me, I'll bring 2 wars to you. So please stop the lying. I expect an apology from the mayor's office. Once Kent Flake said he did not do the budget, there's nothing else to say about that, okay? And that's shameful that you would run around because you don't know your job. And if you think I'm just going to let this go by, you're wrong. Nancy Cross and Bethany Williams are supposed to come back because they're still under subpoena, and we're going to just play this out until somebody has enough sense to. Kent Flakes, Mr. Flakes, Commissioner Streets, maybe you can teach them about, oops, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. But what I really want to say is shame on the mayor's whole administration that they would hold up $15, $16 million worth of paving. And I mean, this covers almost every ward in the city, south and north, and that's irresponsible when we have all these citizens complaining about the paving and that they are losing their hubcaps and puncturing their tires, and then you don't tell us, and you're waiting for a traffic calming bill. That's going to come to the Streets Committee, and how do you do that and you don't even have anything. We passed this back in April. We should have been paving everything, and what really irritates me is if you go over across from the stadium, they're paving in front of the stadium now, as though that is more important than all our neighborhoods. That is not more important, and I'm going to fight not only for North St. Louis, for South St. Louis, the Central Quarter. We have to do a better job from the mayor's administration to pave all of our communities. And again, so now I'm going to be asking questions of how did Rich Bradley just not do anything, because I know Mr. Bradley, he would never not do that without that coming from someplace higher. And that's either Nancy Cross or the mayor, and shame on them. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Right. I would just like to take a moment of personal privilege to thank the staff here today. They have done a tremendous job over the last few weeks as we transition to being in person, and with several absences of folks who are in staff. We really, they've been putting in some extra time on weekends and in the evenings to make sure that we have everything that we need. So they have a well-deserved break coming up over the holidays, hopefully get some rest and catch up on some time. And I also just want to thank the full Board of Aldermen for your spirit of collaboration today. I think this was a good tone that was set, and I hope that we can carry that into the new year. Right. Aldermen from the 25th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move that we excuse the alderpersons from the 27th, 19th, 7th, and 14th wards for necessary absence.
It's been moved by the alderman from the 25th, seconded by the alderwoman from the 4th, that we excuse the aforementioned alderpersons for necessary absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Adjournment. Alderman from the 25th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adjourn until January 13th at 10 a.m. in the chambers.
It has been moved by the alderman from the 25th, seconded by the alderman from the 9th, that we adjourn until January 13th and a hopeful return to the chambers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Have a happy and safe holiday season.